Chapter 32-99. But I won't do something like this. I like Lin Yi. I won't betray him. Meng Yao shook her head firmly. Elder, I'll talk to Lin Yi about this. I'm sure he'll have a way to solve this. Lin Yi? Humph. Yao Yao, don't be stupid. Lin Yi's just a lone practitioner. How could he have a solution? His true strength has already been exposed. How could he be a match for these people? You have to know that there are at least 3 sky class, late phase, peak masters among them. In the ancient times, other than the Sky Elixir sect, who else could suppress them? The Grand Elder said with disdain after hearing Meng Yao's words. She'd never liked Lin Yi. No, Lin Yi will definitely have a solution, Meng Yao said, but her heart was beating like a drum. She'd spent the longest time with Lin Yi, and she knew exactly how strong Lin Yi was. Lin Yi might be able to kill someone stronger than him, but he'd still be at his weakest. Meng Yao knew how many high-level masters died, and now there are at least 3 sky class late phase peak masters. Could Lin Yi really deal with them? Yao Yao, this is settled. I'll talk to the Sky Elixir sect and let them propose. If Lin Yi isn't a match for them, then our Palace of Darkness is finished. The Grand Elder said firmly. Grand Elder, when I came to the Palace of Darkness, you said that you wouldn't interfere with my personal affairs. If this is your decision, then I'll have to leave. I'd rather die than follow you, Meng Yao said with determination. You. The Grand Elder was a bit dumbfounded. She knew what kind of person Meng Yao was, and she was completely different from Yi Wan. Yi Wan accepted everything, but Meng Yao knew how to fight back. With her personality, she might really fight back with her life. But Yao Yao, do you want to see the Palace of Darkness fall? The Great Elder sighed and asked, No, Lin, you will find a way. Meng Yao said firmly, Sigh. The Grand Elder shook his head helplessly. Yao Yao, help me back to my room to rest. If you insist on doing this, then it means that the heavens want to destroy the Palace of Darkness. However, you're the inheritor. Even if Kong Mingming is the son-in-law of the 5 Elements sect, you're still an inheritor. The 5 Elements sect won't make things too difficult for you. Yao Yao, promise me that one day when you go to the Heavenly Stage Island and step into the Heavenly Tao, you must revive the Dark Knight Palace. Grand Elder. Meng Yao didn't expect the Grand Elder to say something like this. She fell silent for a moment. Yes, the Grand Elder may have some flaws here and there, but her heart was for the Palace of Darkness, and that would never change. But how good would it be if she could trust Lin Yi? All right, that's enough. Go look for Lin Yi. When Lin Yi arrives, you'll know that he's a loose cultivator. How weak they are! The Grand Elder interrupted Meng Yao and slowly walked into the Dark Palace with Meng Yao's support. The Grand Elder was heavily injured and went into isolation to recuperate. Perhaps she was completely disappointed in Meng Yao, waiting for the end of the Dark Palace to come. Meng Yao didn't say anything, but the news of what happened in front of the Palace of Darkness spread across the entire Palace of Darkness. All the disciples were in a state of panic. Meng Yao couldn't help but frown at the situation, but she didn't explain anything. It was pointless to say anything at this point. The Grand Elder was injured, and it was a fact. Everything would have to wait for Lin Yi to come. If Lin Yi were to make a move, then it would be more useful than 100 or 1,000 words from Meng Yao. Go back and do your own things. The sky isn't falling yet. Meng Yao waved her hand, telling the confused disciples to go back to their own things. Meng Yao's authority in the Dark Palace was second only to the Grand Elder, so her words were very effective. The disciples left in a blink of an eye. Meng Yao went back to her room and called Lin Yi. What happened just now was too sudden, and there were a lot of disciples watching. Meng Yao didn't notice that Zhao Qibing, who was cleaning the toilet, had sneaked in behind the disciples. Although the conversation between Meng Yao and the Grand Elder wasn't loud, Zhao Qibing still heard something. So when Meng Yao called Lin Yi, he called Kong Mingming as well. Elder Kong, it's Lil Bing. Zhao Qibing said, Oh, Qibing, what's up? Is there news from the Dark Palace? Kong Ming Ming asked. Yes, didn't you come to force the marriage? Today, a group of robbers came and injured the Grand Elder, but Meng Yao and the Grand Elder had a dispute. The Grand Elder wanted Meng Yao to marry into the Sky Elixir sect, but Meng Yao didn't agree and insisted on looking for Lin Yi. She's probably calling Lin Yi now. Kong Ming Ming said softly. Oh, really? That's great. Kong Ming Ming laughed happily. I'm not afraid of her looking for him. I'm afraid that she won't look for him. Qibing, you've done well. Don't worry. After this, you'll definitely get the position of deacon. Not only that, if you get the appreciation of Ancestor Xianqin, who is also my father-in-law, it won't be hard for you to become an expert at the peak of the late stage of Heaven Realm. Ah, really? Zhao Qibing was excited. He didn't think that he would have this kind of opportunity. That's right. You might not know this, but your father and Elder Mian are highly valued here. They're secretly receiving their strength enhancement, and when the time comes, you might be able to enjoy this benefit too. The benefit Kong Ming Ming was talking about was naturally transforming them into biohumans. This was basically a trap, but when it came out of his mouth, it became a great thing. But Zhao Qibing didn't know the inside story and thought that he was valued because of his contribution. He said gratefully, Don't worry, Elder Kong. What else do you want me to do next? Next, pay attention to when Lin Yi goes to the Dark Palace. When Lin Yi goes there, you must call me immediately, Kong Ming Ming ordered. All right, no problem. This was a simple task for Zhao Qibing. He quickly nodded in agreement. Chapter 30, 300. Although Lin Yi had a trump card, he was no longer the Sky-class early-phase Peak Master that was chased by the Association like a stray dog. The current Lin Yi was a Sky-class mid-phase Master, and with the help of the Essence Necklace, he should have the strength to kill a Sky-class late-phase Peak Master. After all, he was only a Sky-class early-phase Peak, and without the Essence Necklace, he could injure He Tianzu, who was a Sky-class late-phase Peak Master. Now, Lin Yi's strength had increased, and he had the Essence Necklace. If he still couldn't deal with a Sky-class late-phase Peak Master, then he should really buy a piece of tofu and kill himself. He might even be able to take on a master with the strength of a perfect perfection. Of course, the premise was that Lin Yi could use the 11th form of the Frenzy 8 Trigram Palm. Although the 5 Elements 8 Trigram Palm only had 10 forms, the Frenzy Fire Fist had as many as 30 forms. When the Big Fire Lion told Lin Yi this secret, Lin Yi was very excited. If this combination continued, in theory, he should be able to use the 30th form of the Frenzy 8 Trigram Palm. That power would be invincible. Lin Yi only used the activation method of the 5 Elements 8 Trigram Palm, and the incantations for the martial arts were all from the Frenzy Fire Fist. The activation method didn't change, and as long as he changed the incantations, Lin Yi could combine more and more powerful forms. However, these were all Lin Yi's guesses. In fact, Lin Yi didn't know if he could use more than 10 forms of the Frenzy Fire 8 Trigram Palm. In theory, it was possible, but it didn't mean that it was possible in practice. After all, the 5 Elements 8 Trigram Palm had a limit of 10 forms. Opening the door, he looked at the familiar courtyard, and a sense of security filled his heart. Unknowingly, Lin Yi had already treated this place as his own home. Or rather, a place with Meng Yao and Shu. This was home. Oh, Shield Bro? Yushu was sleeping when she heard noises coming from the yard. She looked out the window and saw that Lin Yi, Shurhan, and Cheng Yi were back. Yushu had heard some news about the ancient world recently, since Meng Yao would call her occasionally to ask about Lin Yi's situation. Meng Yao told Yushu about her worries and rumors, when she found out that Lin Yi wasn't in the country. Shu, it's so late. Why aren't you sleeping? Lin Yi didn't expect Shu to come out. How have you been? Did anyone come looking for trouble with you? Not really. Yushu shook her head. Right, Shield Bro, is what Yao Yao said true? Are you being hunted by the Overseas Cultivators Association? Lin Yi heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that little Shu was fine. It seemed that the people of the ancient times still had some rules. He didn't do anything reckless, but he didn't expect that even Shu knew about it. But since it was Meng Yao who said it, it wasn't surprising. But it's all in the past now. Right. How's Yao Yao doing in the Palace of Darkness? Lin Yi was still worried about Meng Yao. After all, the Palace of Darkness was different from the Ice Palace. The Grand Elder was obviously a snobbish man, and Meng Yao might have found a point of balance for now. But the moment the two of them disagreed, the balance would be broken. She's fine, and she misses Shield Bro a lot. Maybe you can give her a call, Shield Bro? Yushu always liked to pester Lin Yi to tell her stories when he came back, but today, for the first time, she asked Lin Yi to call Meng Yao first. One could see how important Meng Yao was in her heart. Okay, I'll call her tomorrow morning. It's too late now. It was already midnight when Lin Yi got home, so Lin Yi planned to call her tomorrow. But what Lin Yi didn't expect was that Lin Yi's phone rang. Lin Yi paused when he saw the caller ID. It was Meng Yao. Lin Yi was puzzled. How did Meng Yao know that he was back? Could it be Shu? No. Shu came out when she saw him coming back. Could it be Wang Xinyan? But Wang Xinyan wasn't as vigilant as Shu. She should be sleeping right now. Otherwise, Wang Xinyan would definitely come downstairs instead of calling Meng Yao. Hello, Yao Yao? No matter what, Lin Yi picked up the phone first. Lin Yi, where are you? Are you back? Meng Yao's voice was nervous and hurried. It was understandable. If Lin Yi was still abroad, he wouldn't be able to make it back in time. I just got home. I'm talking to Shu in the yard. Why are you calling me now? Lin Yi found it strange that Meng Yao didn't know where he was. It seemed like no one told her. Lin Yi, something happened in the Palace of Darkness. Meng Yao didn't hide anything. She told Lin Yi everything, from Kong Mingming bringing people to propose to the 3 Sky-class late-phase peak bandits robbing the Palace of Darkness. Lin Yi couldn't help but frown when he heard Kong Xiaoming jumping out again. Anger welled up in his heart. It seemed like this guy was still restless. He couldn't help but jump out again after hearing the news from abroad. The young master of the Sky Elixir sect wanted to marry Meng Yao. At least, Lin Yi didn't believe it. After all, Lin Yi had heard from Kong Xiaobo and Peach that Silkworm Transformation wasn't a bad person. Not to mention that Silkworm Transformation had helped Lin Yi a couple of times. How could Lin Yi believe that Silkworm Transformation would do something like this? It was probably the work of the Xianqin ancestor and Kong Mingming, wasn't it? But Kong Mingming marrying the 11th surprised Lin Yi. Peach had only said that Kong Mingming had abandoned her, but didn't say anything about the Xianqin ancestor and the 11th's identities. So now that he knew that Kong Mingming was the Xianqin ancestor's son-in-law, Lin Yi was very shocked. The two of them actually got together? They were both extremely bad people. What good could come out of them being together? However, Lin Yi smiled coldly. He was worried that he wouldn't have a chance to show his power again after coming back. Now that all the forces were ready to make a move, if Lin Yi didn't show his power again, it would be too late when his enemies joined forces to find trouble with him. Although Lin Yi had a new trump card, he couldn't face multiple masters at the same time. And now, this group of robbers came to his door. Lin Yi was going to use them. Chapter 3301. Of course, Lin Yi didn't believe that this group of people appeared out of nowhere. From Lin Yi's point of view, this group of people was more or less related to Kong Mingming and the Xianqin ancestor. However, it wasn't a bad thing to spread the news of Lin Yi's current strength through these people. It was just that 3 Sky-class peak late-phase masters. If they attacked together, it would be hard for Lin Yi to deal with them. He could only find a chance to kill one in a second to shock them and let the rest retreat. He didn't know if it would work. Lin Yi prayed in his heart, "This essence necklace, please don't screw it up." "I know. I'll go to the Palace of Darkness tomorrow." Lin Yi nodded. Yao Yao, don't worry, I said I'll protect you for life. And Meng Yao blushed slightly. If it was before, she might say in her heart, "Who needs you to protect me for life?" But now, Meng Yao already understood her feelings. She was only happy after hearing what Lin Yi said. "Rest early, I'll go tomorrow morning," Lin Yi said. "Okay, I'll wait for you." Meng Yao didn't know why, but after hearing Lin Yi's words, she felt very relieved, as if the things that were going to happen tomorrow were nothing. Although Lin Yi said it casually, he didn't dare to waste a second after hanging up. He turned to Yushu and the others. "Shu, you take Xiaohan and Yi to rest. I need to prepare for tomorrow morning's trip to the Palace of Darkness." "Okay, Shield Bro." Yushu was very clear-cut when it came to the big picture. She knew that Lin Yi had something urgent to attend to, and so she didn't bother him with questions about the foreign trip. Su Sherhan and Cheng Yi's explanations were all the same. Lin Yi didn't go back to his room directly. Instead, he went to the backyard of the villa. Lin Yi came here to try activating the 11th form of Fire Bagwazang. Before, Lin Yi only imagined that he could activate the 11th form, but he didn't try it. After all, theory was theory, reality was reality. Logically speaking, when Lin Yi was Earth Class Late Phase Peak and Sky Class Early Phase, he should be able to activate the 10th form, but he didn't manage to do it until he was Sky Class Early Phase Peak. So Lin Yi had to practice it. If he could successfully activate the 11th form, then Lin Yi would be more confident when he went to the Palace of Darkness tomorrow. By then, Lin Yi wouldn't be afraid of anything. If he couldn't, then Lin Yi could only resign himself to fate. When he came to the familiar backyard of the villa, General Wei Wu, Skybolt Pig, and Feng ran out and surrounded Lin Yi intimately. These three spirit beasts were the closest to Lin Yi, so they were naturally happy that Lin Yi was back. "Go play. I don't have time for you guys today." Lin Yi waved his hand, signaling them to go play. Lin Yi's mission tonight was the 11th form of Fire Bagwazang. The three spirit beasts naturally understood Lin Yi's words. Although they were a little disappointed, they still went to the side and didn't disturb Lin Yi. Lin Yi calmed himself down and revised the 10th form of Fire Bagwazang. This form was used when Lin Yi was facing He Chenzu overseas. He was forced to activate it, but now Lin Yi could use it freely. After activating it, Lin Yi could clearly feel that there was still a lot of qi left in his body. At least, he could activate it one more time. This was not only the benefit of increasing his strength, but also the essence qi necklace. Not only could the necklace increase his attack and defense, but it could also increase his stamina. Therefore, Lin Yi's stamina and qi were a little more than before. This was reasonable. However, this discovery made Lin Yi very excited. The 10th style of the Frenzy 8 trigrams palm could heavily injure a Sky Class Late Phase Master. If he could use it twice tomorrow and injure 2 Sky Class Late Phase Masters, it would be enough to shock everyone present. However, if possible, it was more important to activate the 11th form of Fire Bagwazang. After activating the 10th form of Fire Bagwazang, Lin Yi's stamina was not enough to activate the 10th form again, but it was enough to activate the 9th form or use it to escape. Lin Yi sat cross-legged on the ground and activated the art of Dragon Mastery. His qi recovered quickly, and Lin Yi found that the speed at which he recovered his qi was also faster than before. Obviously, this should be because of the Essence Qi Necklace. This Essence Qi Necklace was really a good thing. Soon, when Lin Yi recovered his qi, Lin Yi started to try to activate the 11th form of Fire Bagwazang. However, the activation of the 11th form was obviously not as easy as the 10th form. Lin Yi's first attempt ended in failure, but Lin Yi was not discouraged. The previous forms also failed, but this time Lin Yi clearly felt that he was just a little bit away from success. If he continued to try, he would succeed. Because of this belief, Lin Yi kept trying to activate the 11th form of Fire Bagwazang for the whole night. Finally, at dawn, Lin Yi successfully activated it, and he was very familiar with it. and Lin Yi had more or less figured out the pattern of the essence Qi necklace increasing attack power. The probability was 50%. In other words, if Lin Yi used the same move and failed once, he would definitely succeed the next time. And if he succeeded this time, he would definitely fail the next time. In other words, the probability was not random, but a real 50%. This discovery made Lin Yi very happy. Before Lin Yi left, he activated the 11th form of Fire Bagwazang once at home. Next time, he would be able to get the 11th form of Fire Bagwazang that increased attack power. After discovering this pattern, Lin Yi rode on the purple lightning beast at dawn, full of confidence as he headed towards the Dark Palace. This was Lin Yi's first time at the Dark Palace, but Meng Yao had already given the address to Lin Yi. Lin Yi rode on the purple lightning beast and headed towards the Dark Palace. Because it was early in the morning, the sky was still dark, so no one would notice Lin Yi and his beast. Looking at the majestic gate of the Dark Palace and the broken statue of the stone phoenix, Lin Yi sighed. This Kong Mingming was too arrogant. Did he really think that he was a stray dog? Chapter 3302. Lin Yi didn't believe that the robbers in the Dark Palace had nothing to do with Kong Mingming and the Xianqin ancestor. How could there be so many peak, late, phase, heaven-class masters in the ancient world? Lin Yi knew more about the Xianqin ancestor. These 3 people were probably brought here by the Xianqin ancestor. Otherwise, all this talk about starting a sect was bullshit. The Palace of Darkness wasn't a place with abundant energy. Without the Dark Phoenix bloodline, training here would only be average. He would look for other deep mountains and forests. There was more energy there than here. Lin Yi could believe that these bandits were robbing resources, but he didn't believe that they were robbing territory. But did the Xianqin ancestor and Kong Mingming really just want to cause trouble for the Dark Palace? Or did they have other motives? You, what do? Just as Lin Yi stood in front of the mountain gate, a disciple hiding in the dark walked out, trembling. He looked at Lin Yi and asked timidly. The disciple couldn't be blamed for being timid. What happened yesterday really scared him. Today, Lin Yi came here riding a spirit beast, looking very domineering. The disciple hid far away and only dared to ask when he saw that Lin Yi didn't make a fuss. Is Yao Yao here? Lin Yi looked at the disciple and frowned. Wasn't he a little too timid? He still wanted to be a disciple like this. There really was no one else in the Dark Palace. Ah, Yao Yao. The disciple paused and then thought of something. Are you looking for our palace master Chu? Yes, is she here? Lin Yi asked. Are you the young master of the Heaven Elixir sect? Silkworm transformation. The disciple jumped in fright. Kong Xiaoming had come to propose, and now this domineering young man was standing there. The disciple immediately thought of sky silkworm transformation. What silkworm transformation? Lin Yi paused and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How did this disciple become so frightened? Was it rain from wind? He didn't look like that pretty boy from Silkworm Transformation, did he? Go find your palace master and tell her that Lin Yi is here. Ah, you're Lin Yi? Okay, wait a moment. Although Lin Yi's reputation had been tarnished recently, it didn't affect Lin Yi's prestige in the hearts of these disciples. He didn't dare to underestimate Lin Yi when he appeared in such a domineering manner. He quickly turned around and reported to Meng Yao. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with a hint of sharpness as he looked at the direction the disciple left in. Because Lin Yi wasn't looking at the disciple, but at an old acquaintance of Lin Yi's. This person was Zhao Qibing. However, Lin Yi didn't stop Zhao Qibing right away. He wanted to see what this kid was up to. One had to know that the perception of a sky-class master was very strong. It was easy for Lin Yi to watch Zhao Qibing's every move. Zhao Qibing secretly took out his phone from his pocket and dialed a number. Although Lin Yi didn't know who he was calling, he didn't care what he said. Lin Yi could hear everything clearly from where he was. Elder Kong, I'm Lil Bing, Zhao Qibing said in a low voice, as if he didn't know that he was being watched by Lin Yi. He thought that his position was hidden and Lin Yi wouldn't be able to find him. He didn't think that there would be someone in the Palace of Darkness who would inform him. Oh, Qibing, what's up? Kong Mingming asked. Is Lin Yi here? That's right, Elder Kong. Lin Yi is here. He's at the entrance of the Palace of Darkness. Zhao Qibing said. All right, I got it. Don't worry, I'll take care of it, Kong Mingming said faintly. All right, thank you, Elder Kong. I'll be waiting to become the manager of the Sky Elixir sect, Zhao Qibing said quickly and hung up the phone and left in a hurry. Lin Yi's face was expressionless, but he was laughing coldly in his heart. It seemed that his guess was right. Everything that happened in the Palace of Darkness had something to do with Kong Mingming. That robber group was probably sent by Kong Mingming. Otherwise, why would Zhao Qibing call him? However, Lin Yi started to understand what Kong Mingming was trying to do. Kong Mingming paid so much attention to whether he came to the Palace of Darkness or not. It was most likely that he went to the Palace of Darkness to cause trouble, not for Meng Yao, but for him. Lin Yi, Kong Mingming, and Elder Xianqin had a deep grudge against each other, and it was impossible for Kong Mingming not to do anything when Lin Yi exposed his strength abroad. But Lin Yi didn't come back for a while, and Kong Mingming didn't have a chance to cause trouble for him. He probably couldn't hold it in anymore, and wanted to use the Palace of Darkness to lure him out. Because Kong Mingming knew that this was related to Meng Yao, and he couldn't just ignore it. But he didn't know that Lin Yi wasn't hiding abroad, but to increase his strength and create the Jade Space. And Lin Yi was worried about not having a chance to show off his new strength, to become someone who could kill a Sky-class late-phase peak in one hit. And this Kong Mingming gave him the chance. So, Lin Yi didn't stop Zhao Qibing at all. If he stopped him, who would tell him? Lin Yi came here today, not afraid of the robber group coming, as long as they didn't come. If they didn't come, wouldn't Lin Yi's trip be in vain? He might even have to stay here and wait for them to come, and that would be a waste of time. Lin Yi had a lot of things to do now. After this, he'd suppress the enemy forces, and Lin Yi was ready to find Armadillo. He had the location of the poison refinery, and all he needed was action. Not long after Zhao Qibing disappeared, Meng Yao appeared. What Lin Yi didn't expect was that in such a short time, Meng Yao was already an Earth-class early-phase master. Yao Yao, I didn't think that your strength would increase so quickly. Lin Yi looked at the familiar face in front of him and smiled. Lin Yi. Meng Yao missed Lin Yi too. After separating from him, Meng Yao realized how important he was to her. She hadn't seen Lin Yi for a while, and there were so many things she wanted to say, but at this moment, all of them turned into 2 words. Chapter 3303. My strength isn't as strong as Xiao Xiao's. Meng Yao smiled. How did you get here so fast? I thought you'd have to wait. How could I not come when you're in trouble? Lin Yi said. Don't worry about Jiang Wen, leave it to me. It's not a big deal. Grand Elder's injured. Meng Yao sighed. She's injured now, and won't be able to recover in a short period of time. She won't have the chance to step into Sky-class late-phase peak. It's a loss to the palace. Haha, Yao Yao, you don't need to say anything. I understand what you mean. Lin Yi smiled. That old woman deserves it. She's so snobbish. But you're the palace master of the Dark Palace. I'll still help. And thank you. Meng Yao knew that Lin Yi had an opinion of Grand Elder, but she was the palace master now, and naturally, she couldn't consider her own feelings. She had to look at the bigger picture, and she was responsible for the rise and fall of the Dark Palace. Grand Elder may be a bit snobbish, but her feelings for the Dark Palace are unparalleled. I know that, otherwise I wouldn't have helped, Lin Yi said. When this is over, I'll help her heal. I actually want to raise your strength to Earth-class late-phase peak, but I'm afraid that it'll affect your own training. And I don't need it. I'm already very fast with my own training. Meng Yao didn't really mind, but I don't know if those people will come today. Lin Yi, are you sure? Don't worry. Lin Yi smiled. If I wasn't sure, I'd just bring you guys back to West Star Village. That's true. Meng Yao couldn't help but smile. As for whether they'll come today, I'm sure they will. Lin Yi said with certainty. Why? How do you know? Meng Yao paused. There's a mole in your palace of darkness, Lin Yi said. A mole? Meng Yao's face changed, but then he remembered something. Zhao Qibing. That's right, that's him. Lin Yi nodded. It seems that Yao Yao's position as palace mistress wasn't picked up for nothing. She is still very powerful. Meng Yao's face reddened at Lin Yi's words. She humphed. You think I really don't know anything? Yeah, he can even manage me. What's the big deal about managing the Palace of Darkness? Lin Yi laughed. Meng Yao was a little shy. He ignored the topic of Lin Yi and changed the topic. Zhao Qibing, this kid sure has guts. It seems like my punishment was too light. Don't touch him for now. It won't be too late to deal with him after this matter is over. Lin Yi waved his hand. Okay, I'll listen to you. Meng Yao and Lin Yi walked towards the guest room. At this time, the Grand Elder got the news of Lin Yi's arrival. Although Meng Yao had full control of the Palace of Darkness, that wasn't the case. These people had betrayed the Grand Elder. The moment Lin Yi came, the other elders went to inform the Grand Elder. In the eyes of these disciples, the Grand Elder was always behind closed doors, but these elders could still go and look for the Grand Elder. Elder Su, you're saying that Lin Yi came with his head up high, without any worry or helplessness. The Grand Elder heard Elder Su's report. It was strange. She didn't think highly of Lin Yi, and Lin Yi didn't show his face before. This time, he showed up as soon as Meng Yao called him. What did this mean? Was he really confident, or was he just acting for the sake of his woman? That arrogance was just to scare off the robbers? From the Grand Elder's perspective, Lin Yi shouldn't be that strong. If Lin Yi really was strong, why would he be chased by the overseas practitioners? Plus, it had been so long since the chase. Why was he still hiding and not showing his face? If Lin Yi was really that strong, why would he need to hide? So the Grand Elder felt that it was the latter. Lin Yi was an impulsive person for a woman. This made the Grand Elder look down on Lin Yi even more. She humphed and shook her head. Does he really think that acting can scare off those people? How naive! In the past, when the people killed by the blood-clothed underworld sect all misunderstood you, you might be able to scare them off. But now, who would believe you? Ah, Yao Yao, you're still too young. You're easily blinded by love. Just like Yi won her back then. Then, Grand Elder, what should we do now? Elder Su smiled bitterly. If it was Yi won her in the past, he'd still talk behind her back, but now that it was Meng Yao, he didn't dare say anything. He could only ask carefully and awkwardly. Forget it. When those people come again, I'll talk to them. If it really doesn't work, we'll just give them the Palace of Darkness first, and I'll think of something. As long as there's life, there's hope. I'll talk to Yao Yao. After seeing that Lin Yi isn't reliable, she'll be disappointed. I'll talk to her again and let her marry into the Sky Elixir sect. With the Sky Elixir sect backing us up, these people will have to leave the same way they came in. The Grand Elder said helplessly. Grand Elder, you're really thoughtful. Elder Su quickly said. The Grand Elder waved his hand. Forget it, this is a good thing. Let Yao Yao understand that those practitioners aren't reliable at all. But just as the two were talking, a disciple came running over, panting. This disciple was Elder Su's confidant, so he came here first instead of looking for Meng Yao. Every elder had their own confidant disciple, their personal disciple. On the surface, these disciples were under Meng Yao's management, but they only listened to Meng Yao in general. If you really thought about it, they were still the best with their own master. But there was nothing she could do about it. Every sect was like that, and Meng Yao couldn't change that. As long as they didn't cause trouble, Meng Yao wouldn't care about them. After all, there weren't many direct disciples like that, and an elder would only have one or two. The rest were just normal disciples. Chapter 3304. Therefore, this disciple didn't even dare to show his face and ran over to report to Grand Elder and Elder Su while panting heavily. What? They're here so soon? Grand Elder froze. She didn't think that these bandits would come so soon after Lin Yi came. What a coincidence! However, she didn't have high hopes for Lin Yi. She wanted to hold on for a few more days and wait for her injuries to recover before dealing with them. But now it seemed like she had no choice but to go out. With that thought, Grand Elder helplessly said to Elder Su beside her, "Elder Su, help me out and take a look." "Yes, Grand Elder," Elder Su hurriedly replied. And the group of people Kong Ming sent had a clear goal. They were here for Lin Yi. They lured Lin Yi out to confirm Lin Yi's strength. Their plan was to heavily injure Lin Yi, but not kill him. This way, Lin Yi's enemies would definitely come out and kill Lin Yi. They wouldn't expose anything and wouldn't become enemies with Boss Bai. Even if Boss Bai guessed that they didn't kill Lin Yi, Boss Bai couldn't do anything about it. Of course, if their enemies didn't make a move, then these people would kill Lin Yi themselves. So, even though they knew that Lin Yi was in the Dark Palace, they didn't make a ruckus at the entrance. Instead, they rushed into the Dark Palace to find Lin Yi. Their goal was clear. They didn't see any disciples guarding the entrance of the Dark Palace, so they didn't ask any questions. After rushing in, they headed straight for the guest room. It wasn't that they knew that Lin Yi was in the guest room, but that Zhao Qibing had informed Kong Ming about Lin Yi's current location, and that was why these people went straight to the guest room. In the living room, Lin Yi and Meng Yao were reminiscing about old times. The two hadn't seen each other for a long time, and there were so many things they wanted to talk about. Lin Yi told Meng Yao about his experiences recently, and Meng Yao talked about how she built up her authority in the Palace of Darkness. The two of them had different experiences, but it was as if their hearts were connected. When they talked about these things, they felt especially warm and happy for each other. However, this beautiful scene did not last long. As the two of them were talking, there was a rush of footsteps coming from the door of the living room. This was Little 3, Little 4, and Little 5 leading a group of people over. "Little 5, how is it? What's Lin Yi's strength?" Little 3 was a calm person. Although Lin Yi's strength had been exposed before, he had to confirm it again. Otherwise, he wouldn't feel at ease. "Let me see." Little 5 stood at the door and didn't step in. He looked at Lin Yi, and in an instant he knew Lin Yi's strength level. "Brother 3, Lin Yi's strength is Sky Class Middle Phase now." "Oh, so it's only Sky Class Middle Phase." Little 3 sighed in relief. It seemed that Lin Yi's actual strength wasn't that high. He didn't know how the rumors about him killing Sky Class Late Phase Peak Masters got out. It was a scam. "Yes, only Sky Class Middle Phase," Little 5 confirmed. "Let's go, follow me in." Little 3 laughed coldly, thinking about how to humiliate Lin Yi later. Before he came, he got Kong Ming's instructions. Before he hurt Lin Yi, he had to humiliate and mock Lin Yi as much as possible, making Lin Yi feel ashamed. Even if Kong Ming didn't say anything, Little 3 would still do it. Not to mention that Kong Ming, the Xianqian elder's son-in-law, had said something. So, when Little 3 entered, he looked at Meng Yao angrily. "Girl, is that old woman from your Dark Palace dead yet? Have you made your decision? Are you prepared to give up the Dark Palace to us? You need to know that we're here today to take over the Dark Palace." Meng Yao was about to say something, but was interrupted by Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't seem to care about Little 3 at all, continuing, "Our second-level automatic cauldrons are going to be on the market soon. Does the Dark Palace need a few?" Meng Yao paused, knowing that Lin Yi was looking down on them. She smiled. "If it's possible, of course I want them. I'm not going through the back door, am I?" "Haha, we're family. I'll talk to Jing about it." Lin Yi smiled. Then I won't participate in the auction, Meng Yao said with a smile. The practitioners' trade fair was for the sake of building momentum, and not just anyone could attend the opening of the second-level automatic cauldrons. You'd have to make a reservation first and get the right to bid before you could attend the auction. After all, the cultivators all knew about the magic of the first-level automatic cauldrons. Now that the second-level automatic cauldrons were on the market, Miracle, Dr. Guan's medical company, was a golden signboard. It wasn't like before when the first-level automatic cauldrons were on the market, where everyone was skeptical. Now, it had attracted the attention of many ancient sects before it even hit the market. Meng Yao's Dark Palace, on the other hand, naturally wanted to buy a few cauldrons as well. If they were as convenient as the first-level cauldrons, then their first-level refiners would be able to make second-level pills. One had to know that the first-level refiner from the Dark Palace had the skills to make second-level pills, but he didn't have enough experience and control. That was why he failed so many times and didn't officially become a second-level refiner. If this second-level automatic cauldron was the same as the first-level automatic cauldrons and didn't have such strict requirements for the refiner, as long as they could control the fire and change the temperature, then the Dark Palace would be able to make second-level pills. Phut! Are you deaf? Didn't you hear what I said? Lil 3 was about to explode. This was blatant disrespect. At this moment, he couldn't take it any more. Looking at the direction the guard left, a faint light flashed in Lin Yi's eyes. Because Lin Yi wasn't looking at the guard, but at an old acquaintance of Lin Yi's. This person was Zhao Qibing. Fuck, Lin Yi. You're still trying to act cool in front of me? You think I don't know your real situation? You're just a Sky-class mid-phase master, and you're being chased like a stray dog. If you acted cool in front of me before, I wouldn't dare do anything because of the rumors, but why would I be afraid of you now? Chapter 3305. Yao Yao, who's this idiot? Is he a disciple of the Dark Palace? How can he be so unruly? Lin Yi's words were arrogant, but Lin Yi's goal was to anger Little 3. Uff. Meng Yao couldn't help but laugh when she heard Lin Yi call Little 3. Lin Yi, this idiot. This idiot isn't from the Dark Palace. I don't know where he came from. Meng Yao trusted Lin Yi, so she said whatever Lin Yi said. She didn't think that Lin Yi wasn't a match for these people. Little girl, do you think that just because this kid is here he can support you? Idiot. I'd like to see who's the big idiot here. Little 3 humphed coldly and walked towards Lin Yi. Sky-class mid-phase kid. You dare to be arrogant in front of me? Today, I'll let you know why flowers are so red. Little 3 said these words to disguise himself, to make himself look like an ancient sect robber group. He didn't want to cause trouble for the Xianqian ancestor, and didn't want people to suspect his background. Noisy! Lin Yi stood up and started the mantra for Frenzy Fist in his mind. But on the surface, he looked calm and didn't look like he was facing a great enemy. When Little 3 walked over, Lin Yi waved his hand casually and pushed out, Frenzy 8 trigrams Palm, 11th form. The 50% increase in attack rate came into effect at this time. Once Lin Yi used this move, Little 3 would die for sure. Lin Yi was very clear about the power of the 11th form of Frenzy 8 trigrams Palm. Little 3 didn't care before. But Lin Yi's true strength had been exposed, and with Little 5's help, it didn't matter. Lin Yi was only a Sky-class mid-phase now. He wasn't a threat at all. Plus, when Lin Yi stood up, he used the mantra, allowing Little 3 to truly feel the strength that Lin Yi was exhibiting. Sky-class mid-phase without a doubt. So, Little 3 wasn't afraid of Lin Yi's ability at all. In his eyes, Lin Yi was someone he could do whatever he wanted to him. However, the moment Lin Yi unleashed his technique, Little 3 suddenly felt that something was wrong. No. This was definitely not a martial skill that a heaven-rank middle-stage expert could use. Definitely not. Little 3 quickly tried to use the incantation to protect itself with pure qi, but it was too late. Lin Yi's move was too fast, and little 3 wasn't prepared for it at all. As a result, little San was truly unlucky and miserable. Boom dash, Lin Yi's seemingly casual palm landed heavily on little 3's chest, and little 3, who had just been clamoring for Lin Yi to see why the flowers were so red, suddenly flew into the air and flew backwards, and in his mouth was little 3. At this moment, he spat out a stream of blood. Yeah, look, he's right. I finally see why the flowers are so red. Lin Yi pointed at the rain of blood that little 3 spat out and smiled faintly. And, although it was a bloody scene, as the palace master of the Dark Palace, Mengyao had long gotten used to it, so she didn't think it was scary. On the contrary, she was extremely excited. Lin Yi was really powerful, those rumors. What a joke! Who was little 3? That was a Sky-class late-phase peak master, and he was killed in one move by Lin Yi. And they even said that Lin Yi was being chased by a Sky-class late-phase peak master from the association? Who was the one chasing who? Was it the other way around? Could it be that the Overseas Cultivators Association was trying to protect their own reputation? That's why they made up such a lie, making everyone think that the one being chased was Lin Yi, when in fact they were the ones being chased. Of course, it wasn't just Mengyao who was shocked, little 4 and little 5 who were standing at the door, as well as the people behind them. Little 4 and little 5 looked at the flying little 3, and their hearts couldn't be any more shaken. The two of them subconsciously took a few steps back, looking at little 3, who had landed heavily on the ground. His eyes were bulging, and blood was flowing out of all his orifices, dyeing his mask red. There was a huge dent in his chest, evidently dead. Even with a 4th-level Great Recover pill, it wouldn't be able to save little 3's life. This move was too ruthless and too fierce, but what shocked them was, what kind of master was Lin Yi? Why was it that when he used the mantra, he displayed the strength of a Sky-class mid-phase master, and even now Lin Yi was still using the mantra, and the strength he displayed was still that of a Sky-class mid-phase master? How could the martial technique he used be so powerful? They had seen their master, the Xianqin ancestor, use the martial technique, and the power of the martial technique used by the Xianqin ancestor should not be so powerful, right? Only an expert with the strength of a Sky-class late-phase master at the Great Perfection Realm could achieve such a huge power, to be able to kill a Sky-class late-phase master in an instant. Moreover, this Sky-class late-phase master at the Great Perfection Realm couldn't be an ordinary Sky-class late-phase master at the Great Perfection Realm. It had to be a supermaster like the Xianqin ancestor, who was stronger than other Great Perfection Realm masters. Could it be that Lin Yi's current strength was already the same as the Xianqin ancestor? But how was this possible? However, to say that it was impossible, this was the truth that they had seen with their own eyes. It was 100 times more shocking than hearsay, and it couldn't be faked. Therefore, little 4 and little 5 were a little confused. Originally, they came to look for trouble and wanted to injure Lin Yi, but now it seemed that Lin Yi didn't injure them. No, it should be said that it was not bad that Lin Yi didn't kill them. Little 3 was the strongest existence among the 3 of them, but this strongest existence was killed by Lin Yi in one move, and he couldn't be more dead. Chapter 3306. Tell me, who sent you here? Lin Yi asked faintly. Who sent us here? We're here to rob, but we're eyeing the Dark Palace and want to take over this place. Little 4's heart jumped. Could it be that Lin Yi noticed something? But he would never admit it. If that was the case, then if Lin Yi knew that they were the Xianqin ancestors' disciples, wouldn't he just kill them all? One had to know that the hatred between Lin Yi and the Xianqin ancestor wasn't hidden. It was out in the open. Lin Yi even dared to torture the Xianqin ancestor's daughter, little 11. Would Lin Yi let them go not to mention these disciples who came looking for trouble? So they couldn't admit it. Whether it was for confidentiality or to save their lives, they couldn't say it. Lin Yi's mouth flashed with a hint of mockery. Lin Yi knew that they wouldn't say it, but it didn't matter if they didn't. Lin Yi knew who sent them. He didn't need to prove anything. However, at this moment, when Lin Yi was about to say something, there was a sudden sound of hurried footsteps coming from the side door of the living room. It was the Grand Elder, with Elder Sue's help, coming to the living room. As soon as the Grand Elder entered, he saw Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and the robbers standing opposite each other in the living room. He thought that they were about to start a fight, and he jumped in fright. "Heroes, let's talk this out, I'm late." The Grand Elder didn't understand the situation, thinking that the Dark Palace was still a weak group. Seeing the blood on the floor, he thought that one of the disciples was injured, so he lowered his stance and spoke in a flattering tone. He had no choice. He had to lower his head when he was under someone else's roof. This was the Grand Elder's principle. Where there's life, there's hope. If the Dark Palace was destroyed, then everything would be destroyed. Even if there was a glimmer of hope, he had to fight for it. "Heroes, don't you want the Dark Palace's territory? All right, I'll have all my disciples withdraw from this place today. I'll hand over this place to you heroes to establish your own sects." The Great Elder continued. Ga. Little 4 and Little 5 were a little confused. What was this Grand Elder doing here again? Could it be that she saw someone backing her up, so she deliberately came over to act cool? That must be it. With the current situation, how would Little 4 and Little 5 dare to ask for Dark Palace's territory? Wasn't that courting death? As soon as they moved in, they were all killed by Lin Yi. Anyone with a brain wouldn't do such a suicidal thing. Therefore, in the eyes of Little 4 and Little 5, the Great Elder was a typical example of a pretentious old man. However, even though they knew that the Great Elder was pretending to be pretentious, they didn't dare to complain. Didn't they see that Lin Yi was still standing there like a tiger eyeing its prey? Could it be that they really didn't want to live anymore, daring to go against Lin Yi head-on? So, although Little 4's expression was a little ugly, he still carefully said in a pleasant tone, "Great Elder, we brothers had eyes but didn't recognize empty tie. We didn't know that the Dark Palace has such a strong backing now. Please don't make fun of us." "Yeah, Palace Master Chu, we didn't know that your boyfriend was so strong. If we knew, we wouldn't dare to do anything even if you gave us 100 guts. We were wrong. We'll leave now." Little 5 said in fear. Yes, we'll leave now," Little 4 said as he prepared to collect Little 3's corpse on the ground. At this time, the Great Elder suddenly realized that the dead person on the ground wasn't some disciple of the Dark Palace. It was the person who injured him with one palm. Although his face was masked, his figure was still fresh in the Great Elder's memory. Wasn't this person the leader? How did he die? Wait, could it be that Lin Yi killed him? Otherwise, why would these people smile and be so careful? The Grand Elder was dumbfounded at the thought. How did Lin Yi really have the ability to do this? Not only did he subdue these people, he even killed the leader of the robbers. One had to know that the robber was a peak late phase, heaven-class master. "Did I let you leave?" Before the Great Elder could recover from the shock, Lin Yi's cold voice rang out again. This caused the heart of Little 4, who was collecting Little 3's corpse, to suddenly tremble. His hands also stopped moving, not daring to continue. Raising his head, he carefully said with a smile, "Young hero, that senior, we know we were wrong." "What do you mean? You think this is your home?" Lin Yi looked at Little 4 and said indifferently, "Do you think there's such a good thing in this world? Are you going back and forth through the city gate?" Senior, then what do you think we should do?" Little 4 was speechless. It seemed that Lin Yi was someone with real strength and confidence, and he wasn't just showing off. Now he was a little regretful. Why didn't he investigate clearly before coming? However, how could Little 4 know something that even Patriarch Xianqin and Kong Mingming didn't know? How about this? Since you admit your mistakes, you can be spared from death, but you can't escape punishment. Both of you, stand out and let me hit each of you once. Then we'll forget about this matter." Lin Yi looked at Little Four and Little Five and said slowly. At this moment, Lin Yi had already recovered his physical strength and true qi. Moreover, he had recovered to his peak state. Lin Yi did this not just to punish them, but also to intimidate them. He wanted Patriarch Xianqin to know that Lin Yi was very powerful now and could attack continuously. He could casually kill and injure a peak late phase heaven-class master. This, "Senior, we don't want to die." Little Four's face darkened. "If we just stood there and let you hit us once, would it be good? Wouldn't we be directly beaten to death by you? I can guarantee that I won't beat you to death. I will be merciful and just punish you." Lin Yi looked at the two of them. Although he sneered on the surface, he was smiling bitterly in his heart. "It would be difficult for me to kill the two of you. Under the premise that you are on guard, it is not realistic to want to kill you." "Really?" Little Four looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. "Do you have the capital to bargain with me?" Lin Yi said very coldly, "If you don't want to accept punishment, then stay here." Chapter 3307. If Lin Yi really wanted to kill them, then so be it. What else could they do to resist? Thinking of this, Little Four and Little Five could only compromise. The two of them walked to the living room, trembling with fear. They closed their eyes and began to circulate their true qi to protect their bodies. Raging Fire 8 Trigram Palm, 11th form. Lin Yi once again used the Raging Fire 8 Trigram Palm on Little Four's chest. Boom! Under Lin Yi's attack, Little Four's entire body flew out quickly and landed heavily on the wall behind the living room. With a loud bang, the wall cracked in several places. However, after vomiting a few mouthfuls of blood, he realized that he was still alive and immediately heaved a sigh of relief. However, this situation did not last long. Little Four wanted to circulate his Heart Sutra to heal himself, but he was shocked to find that most of the meridians in his body had been broken. In other words, he was now a cripple. Unless he had a top-grade, 4th-grade Great Recover pill, he would become a cripple like Tagon Long. At this time, Lin Yi attacked again. Raging Fire 8 Trigram Palm, 10th form. Lin Yi's remaining true qi was not enough to activate the 11th form of the Raging Fire 8 Trigram Palm. However, it was still more than enough to activate the 10th form. This 10th form also happened to trigger the attack bonus of the Essence Necklace. Boom! Under Lin Yi's attack, Little Five also followed in Little Four's footsteps. His entire body flew out and landed heavily on the wall that Little Four had hit before. This time, there was another loud bang. This time, it directly smashed a big hole in the already broken wall of the living room. With the attack bonus of the Essence Necklace, the power of the 10th form of the Raging Fire 8 Trigram Palm, and the 11th form of the Raging Fire 8 Trigram Palm without the attack bonus were actually not much different. Therefore, in the eyes of these two people, Lin Yi had activated the same move. There was no difference. Xiao Wu also spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His meridians were all broken, but he did not die, nor did he faint. This was the benefit of their true qi protection. Otherwise, they would not have died, but they would definitely be in a vegetative state like Tagon Long. One had to know that even if the 11th move of the Frenzied Fire 8 Trigrams Palm was not enhanced in terms of attack, its power was still very shocking. All right, take them and leave. Lin Yi ordered the lackeys brought by Little 3, Little 4, and Little 5. Lin Yi wasn't interested in dealing with these people, and he needed them to bring these 3 people back. Yes, Senior. The 5 Elements Sect's disciples at the door were already scared out of their wits. Little 3, Little 4, and Little 5 were second only to Little 1 and Little 2, the 2 5 Elements Sect's peak, late, phase, senior brothers. But they were beaten to death and heavily injured, just like that. It was not difficult at all. How powerful was this? They didn't dare to stay or ask any more questions. They all walked in and quickly carried little Three's corpse, together with the two crippled little Four and little Five. They left the Dark Palace's guest hall dejectedly. They ran as fast as they could without stopping at all. Phew! Lin let out a long breath. These two moves of the raging Fire 8 trigram palm had already used up all the true qi in Lin Yi's body. If these disciples attacked together, Lin Yi would really be in trouble. After all, the Supreme Elder, who was a peak late phase Heaven Stage Master, was seriously injured and could not fight. The other disciples and elders of the Dark Palace were not strong. They had no confidence in winning against those lackeys. Although the possibility of those lackeys daring to do anything was almost zero, it was still a relief to see them leave. That young hero Lin, the Supreme Elder, was completely shocked. So, Lin Yi was not the kind of rogue cultivator who only knew how to boast and spread rumors. He was a real master. These 3 peak, late, phase Heaven Stage bandits. How mighty and powerful were they? But in front of Lin Yi, they were either dead or injured. There was no room for negotiation at all. It seemed like her previous strategy was wrong. She had to build a good relationship with Lin Yi in the future. Lin Yi looked at the Supreme Elder faintly. Back in the villa, Lin Yi was no match for the Supreme Elder, but now Lin Yi didn't care about her at all. Lin Yi didn't have a good impression of a snobbish person like her. But for Meng Yao's sake and the Supreme Elder's face, Lin Yi didn't do anything too extreme. He only said coldly, "I'm tired, Yao Yao. Get me a room. I need to rest." Okay. Meng Yao naturally knew what was going on with Lin Yi. Lin Yi must have used up all the true qi in his body, so he needed to find a place to recover. She said to the disciple beside her without hesitation, "Go get a room. I'll bring Lin Yi there." Yes, Palace Master. The disciple respected Lin Yi a lot. Lin Yi's one move had saved the Palace of Darkness from a disaster. Back then, the disciples of the Palace of Darkness had been living in fear, afraid that the bandits would come and they wouldn't have a place to stay. Those people had taken over the Palace of Darkness, and they would chase the original people out. But now, Lin Yi had saved the Palace of Darkness, saving their fates. They were filled with gratitude towards Lin Yi. The Supreme Elder wasn't angry at being ignored by Lin Yi. Instead, she laughed. "That's right, Yao Yao. Bring young hero Lin to rest. He's your husband. Don't neglect him. You may be the Palace Master, but you have to listen to your husband." Huh. Meng Yao looked at the Grand Elder, flabbergasted. She didn't understand what the Grand Elder was saying. Why was he saying that? What did he mean by "he's your husband"? She and Lin Yi were just boyfriend and girlfriend. Plus, didn't the Supreme Elder never support her being with Lin Yi? From boyfriend to husband, just like that? But after a moment of shock, Meng Yao understood what the Supreme Elder meant. The Supreme Elder saw how strong Lin Yi was and wanted to get closer to Lin Yi. Chapter 3308. Oh, Meng Yao was speechless. This Grand Elder. Why was he acting like a matchmaker? The word sent a chill down Meng Yao's spine. She used to look down on Lin Yi for being a freelancer, but now Lin Yi looked at the Grand Elder coldly. To be honest, he didn't like the Grand Elder's attitude at all. She was the epitome of someone who swayed with the wind. But Lin Yi didn't say anything and walked out of the lounge. The Grand Elder didn't dare say anything after that cold stare from Lin Yi. With Elder Chui's support, he followed behind carefully. The disciple from before had already prepared the guest room, and Lin Yi stayed there for the time being. Activating the skill just now had exhausted all of Lin Yi's energy, so Lin Yi needed some rest. Meng Yao didn't bother Lin Yi anymore. She turned around to deal with the rest of the matters in the Palace of Darkness. She wanted to call for a palace meeting to appease the disciples. After all, what happened before had given them a lot of pressure. Meng Yao turned around and saw the Grand Elder running towards her. She paused. "Grand Elder, you're injured." What are you running for? Meng Yao didn't like the Grand Elder's swaying personality, but the Grand Elder had acknowledged Lin Yi. She didn't need to look at the Grand Elder's face when contacting Lin Yi in the future. Yao Yao, is young Master Lin resting? The Grand Elder asked carefully. Yes, he rushed here last night and then faced such a fierce battle. Of course he's tired and needs to rest. Meng Yao, naturally, wouldn't say that Lin Yi had used up all of his energy. Instead, she made it sound like he had rushed here last night. Oh, Grand Elder didn't ask much. She was just asking casually. Her real purpose wasn't this. Yao Yao, you see, when are you going to hold your engagement ceremony with young hero Lin? Ah, why would I hold an engagement ceremony? Since when did I have an engagement ceremony? Meng Yao looked at the Grand Elder, stunned. Yao Yao, it's not that I want to criticize you, but the Grand Elder is also an experienced person. I've long felt that this Lin Yi isn't a normal person, but a super master. So, Yao Yao, a person like this must have a lot of pursuers. For example, that Yushu in your family, Su Han, people like that, they must like Lin Yi too. So, you must hurry up, you must get young hero Lin first. Confirm your relationship. Don't let others take him away. What the hell are you talking about? Meng Yao was speechless from the Grand Elder's words. What do you mean you've long known that Lin Yi isn't immortal? Didn't you say that he was a rogue cultivator? You even told me to cut off all ties with him. And now you want to get engaged? Do you have to be so shameless? Yao Yao, don't think that I'm annoying, I'm just telling the truth. The Grand Elder sighed. You must think that I'm someone who changes my words according to the wind, that I'm trying to suck up to Lin Yi just because he's strong, right? Meng Yao didn't reply, but her silence meant that she agreed with the Grand Elder's words. Indeed, that was what Meng Yao was thinking. She said bad things about Lin Yi before, and now that Lin Yi had revealed his strength, he wanted her to get engaged to Lin Yi. Yao Yao, I'm already injured, and I can't break through to the level of perfection. This injury isn't very likely to heal, so I don't think I'll live much longer. The Palace of Darkness will continue to flourish in your hands. The Great Elder didn't care at all and continued, My whole life, all I want is for the Palace of Darkness to become a first-class sect in the ancient times. Face, vanity, those are all fake. You may think I'm shameless, but I want to say that I'm just like that. As long as the Palace of Darkness is good, you can insult me or even kill me. It's all fine, it doesn't matter. So, Yao Yao, this is also a request of mine. You must capture Lin Yi. Lin Yi, this is the chance for our Palace of Darkness to soar. Meng Yao was filled with emotions as she listened to the Grand Elder's heartfelt words. Yes, she did look down on the Grand Elder before, thinking that she was someone who changed her ways according to the wind. She scolded Lin Yi one moment, and now she's trying to get on Lin Yi's good side. Shameless to the extreme. Chapter 3309. Grand Elder, go rest. We'll go find you when Lin Yi's done resting. Meng Yao sighed as she spoke to the Grand Elder. Okay, then I'll wait quietly in the room for young hero Lin to come and heal me. The Supreme Elder turned around and left with a smile. A smile appeared on Meng Yao's lips as she watched the Grand Elder leave. At this moment, she had finally become the palace master of the Dark Palace, truly in control of the palace. From now on, even the Grand Elder would have to listen to her. Mom, your daughter did it, with Lin Yi's help. Are you happy? In actuality, Meng Yao's control of the Palace of Darkness had always been because she wanted to clear her mother's name. In the future, when Yi Wan came back to the Palace of Darkness, who would dare to go against her? Come in, Yao Yao. Lin Yi's voice sounded in the room, pulling Meng Yao back from her thoughts. She quickly pushed the door open and entered Lin Yi's room. Lin Yi, you recovered your qi? Meng Yao was a bit surprised. Lin Yi recovered in such a short time? Not yet, but it's fine now. Let's talk, Lin Yi said. Okay. Meng Yao nodded and sat beside Lin Yi. Yao Yao, finally, is there any news about that Sky-class island plan? Lin Yi was most concerned about the future inheritor's Sky-class island plan. This had been linked to Lin Yi's fate since the moment Xiao Xiao stayed in the Ice Palace. But what pissed Lin Yi off the most was that the mastermind of this was Elder Xianqin, his archenemy. Not yet. Meng Yao shook her head. Dark Palace and Five Elements sect don't have a good relationship. We'll have to wait for the Sky class meeting in the future to find out the details. I understand. I'll go to this meeting, Lin Yi nodded. As Meng Yao and Lin Yi were chatting, Kong Mingming was in Elder Xuanqin's room. The two were imagining the tragedy in Dark Palace when footsteps came from the door. Kong Mingming guessed that the people he sent out were back. They should be back by now. Elder, it should be San, Si, and Wu. Kong Mingming stood up. I'll go open the door. All right, Elder Xianqin nodded. However, when Kong Xiaoming opened the door, the person standing outside wasn't Xiao San and the others, but the person in charge of guarding the Soul Jade tablet of Five Element School. Patriarch Xianqin, this is bad. Third Senior Brothers, Soul Jade card has shattered. The disciple held up a broken Soul Jade card and said anxiously, What? Elder Xianqin stood up and stared at the Soul Jade in the disciple's hand. His eyes widened, filled with disbelief and shock. How could it be? Could Little Sun have been killed? Otherwise, why would his Soul Jade plate shatter into pieces? What about the others? Elder Xianqin asked. What about Si and Wu? Fourth Senior Brother and Fifth Senior Brother's Soul Jade tablets are fine. The disciple replied carefully. Elder Xianqin breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that only San died and Si and Wu were fine. That was good, as long as they weren't all wiped out. Could it be that the blood-clothed underworld sect made a move? Elder Xianqin frowned. The development of the matter made him very angry. The blood-clothed underworld sect actually intervened again. It seemed that if he didn't show up, the blood-clothed underworld sect wouldn't know how high the sky was. But it was no wonder that Elder Xianqin thought that San was killed by the blood-clothed underworld sect. In his opinion, San was an expert at the peak of the late stage of Heaven Stage. In the Dark Night Palace, no one could do anything to him, let alone Lin Yi. Then, the only one who made a move was the blood-clothed underworld sect. Just as Patriarch Xianqin was guessing, the disciples of the Five Elements sect brought Little 3, Little 4, and Little 5 to Patriarch Xuanqin's room. Seeing that the door wasn't closed, these disciples couldn't be bothered anymore. They rushed in and immediately reported to Patriarch Xianqin. You guys are... Elder Xianqin looked at these people who came in. Elder Xianqin wasn't surprised to see San's body being carried by a disciple. The Soul Jade tablet was broken, so San definitely had no chance of survival. However, Si and Wu were also carried back by someone. This made Elder Xuanqin's heart skip a beat. Master, Fifth Junior Brother and I are crippled, Si said with a gloomy face. He knew his injuries and knew that even with his master's ability, he couldn't save them. They could only be cripples for the rest of their lives. What? Damn blood-clothed underworld sect. This old man isn't finished with you. Elder Xianqin went berserk on the spot. He knew that Si would never speak nonsense. If he said they were crippled, then they were really crippled. There was no hope of recovery. Otherwise, it would only be called an injury, not a cripple. Blood-clothed underworld sect. Si was stunned. Why did the blood-clothed underworld sect come to this again? What did this have to do with the blood-clothed underworld sect? Not even a shadow of the blood-clothed underworld sect appeared. What happened today wasn't done by the blood-clothed underworld sect. Seeing the shocked expression on Si's face, Elder Xianqin immediately realized that things might not be as he imagined. Master, the one who made a move today was Lin Yi. Si said hatefully that Lin Yi's strength doesn't exist. He killed third senior brother in one move and crippled me and fifth junior brother in 2 moves. What do you mean by being chased overseas like a stray dog? That's just bullshit. Lin Yi is amazing. With his strength, I don't think he's any worse than Master. What? A haze flashed on Elder Xuanqin's face. He Luo actually dared to deceive him? Although Elder Xuanqin didn't believe that he Luo dared to deceive him, it was impossible for his disciples to lie. The facts were right in front of him. 3 of his disciples were beaten up by Lin Yi, 1 dead and 2 crippled. How could this say that Lin Yi didn't have strength? Lin Yi is now a peak late-stage Heaven Realm expert with great perfection strength. No, he's only mid-stage Heaven Realm, Little Wu said with certainty. I've checked several times. Moreover, from the strength he displayed when using the mantra, he's only mid-stage Heaven Realm. However, the martial skills he used are definitely at the great perfection level. Chapter 33:10. This was also in line with the rumors about Lin Yi in the past, which was that he killed high-level cultivators in seconds as a low-level cultivator. Could it be that Lin Yi was hiding something when he was overseas? Patriarch Xianqin frowned. It seemed that he had made a bad move. He guessed that those who went to find trouble with the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect must have found out some inside information. Otherwise, it was no wonder that these people didn't go after Lin Yi for so long. They didn't dare to do so. He had foolishly sent people to the Dark Knight Palace, but the result was that they were either dead or crippled, and there was no way to avenge his disciple. In that case, Lin Yi still has the ability to kill high-level cultivators in seconds? Patriarch Xianqin frowned and asked, Yes, Master. Little 4 was a little sad. My injuries and little 5's go and rest first. I'll think of something. Patriarch Xianqin gestured for little 4 and little 5 to be at ease. In fact, he was just saying it. If he had a way, Tagon Long would have been cured long ago, and he wouldn't have to become enemies with Lin Yi. Not only was little 11 injured by Lin Yi, but little 1's divine weapon was also taken away by Lin Yi. Yes, Master. Although they knew that the chances of recovery weren't high, they still had hope that Patriarch Xiantian would be able to think of a solution. Patriarch Xuantian's injuries were the same, and he hadn't recovered, let alone the 2 of them. After little 4 and little 5 left, Patriarch Xianqin sighed. Xiaoming, what do you think about this? Father-in-law, it seems that the Overseas Cultivators Association wants to trick us. Isn't this a false report? We have suffered heavy losses. We can't let them go. Kang Mingming knew that he had no way to deal with Lin Yi, so he directly targeted the Overseas Cultivators Association. He needed someone to vent his anger on, right? Xiaoming, you don't know my relationship with He Luonan. He probably wouldn't lie to me. After calming down, Patriarch Xianqin felt that He Luo had no reason to lie to him. After all, the 2 of them were brothers, and there was no conflict between them. Kang Mingming was stunned. He Luonan's surname was He, and so was Patriarch Xianqin. Kang Mingming knew this. Although he didn't know Patriarch Xuanqin's real name, he knew 11th's real name, He Meiqi. Therefore, he guessed that Patriarch Xianqin and He Luonan, the president of the Overseas Cultivators Association, were related. While others address me as Old Ancestor Xianqin, my actual name is He Haiyang. Patriarch Xianqin smiled and said, This name is rather unique, so I usually don't tell others. Kang Mingming didn't know what to say after hearing Patriarch Xuanqin's name. Nuclear submarine, nuclear warhead. Could they be brothers? It seemed very possible. He Luonan is my younger brother, my biological brother, so he wouldn't lie to me. Something must have gone wrong. Patriarch Xianqin waved his hand and said, Perhaps overseas, Lin Yi wasn't acclimatized and couldn't display his strength. Sure enough. But about Lin Yi, I don't know. What you said is also possible. Kong Ming Ming thought about it and said, I vaguely heard before that Lin Yi had to pay a certain price to instantly kill high-level masters. I'm afraid that when he was overseas, he lacked some necessary conditions. What you said makes sense. Patriarch Xianqin nodded and said, I'll call He Luonan first and ask. After Patriarch Xianqin finished speaking, he didn't hide from Kong Ming Ming and directly dialed He Luonan's number. Luonan, how are your injuries? Patriarch Xianqin asked after picking up the phone. Big brother, my injuries are fine. Although I and the Red Conch people were both injured, the injuries weren't particularly serious. I can recover. He Luonan said, Big brother, you called me about Lin Yi. Is there any news? Luonan, there is news about Lin Yi. My move also forced Lin Yi out, but the result was completely different. Patriarch Xianqin sighed and told He Luonan what happened. What? Lin Yi is so powerful. Can he really kill a peak, late-stage, heaven-stage master? He Luonan was shocked. But why did he run away when he was overseas? Why is that? I don't know about that. I'm just calling you to ask if there's anything wrong with Lin Yi overseas, right? For example, is there an injury or some other reason? Patriarch Xianqin said, Luonan, think about it carefully. Is there anything special? I believe. He Luonan's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Waves of lingering fear surged out. If there was no problem with Lin Yi, then He Tianzu would have been killed, even when He Luonan and the Red Conch general manager were both injured. Lin Yi could have killed both of them. However, Lin Yi didn't do so. This meant that Lin Yi had a special reason for not doing so. What was it? Suddenly, He Luonan thought of something and quickly said, Big brother, I remember. Before, when Lin Yi was overseas, he wasn't at the mid-stage of Heaven Stage, but at the peak early stage of Heaven Stage. And you just said that Lin Yi is now at the mid-stage of Heaven Stage. He must have broken through during this time, so I have a guess. What guess? Patriarch Xianqin asked quickly. Is it because when Lin Yi was overseas, he was already on the verge of breaking through, so he didn't dare to overdraw his physical strength to activate those big moves? He was afraid that it would affect his breakthrough. So when Lin Yi was chased by us, we don't know where he hid in seclusion to level up. Now, Lin Yi has successfully broken through, so when he went back, he dared to release his big moves. As for what you said about not being able to adapt to the climate overseas, I don't think it's possible. After all, it's a bit ridiculous. He Luonan analyzed. Well, what you said seems to make sense. After Patriarch Xianqin listened, he nodded in agreement. Generally, before a breakthrough, most cultivators would choose to go into seclusion to attack. They didn't dare to consume their qi to activate a big move. And Lin Yi obviously belonged to this category. Hi, big brother. Then I'm lucky that I didn't chase after him. Otherwise, if I force Lin Yi, it's very likely that Tianzu would be finished. He Luonan said with lingering fear. Chapter 33:11. Okay, big brother. Even if Patriarch Xianqin didn't say anything, He Luon didn't intend to cause trouble for Lin Yi. After all, he didn't think that the Overseas Cultivators Association was Lin Yi's opponent. Wouldn't he be courting death if he went there? After hanging up the phone, Patriarch Xianqin looked at Kong Ming Ming and said, You heard it too. We might have guessed wrong. The Blood Underworld sect was just a smokescreen released by Lin Yi. Maybe before he went overseas, Lin Yi had signs of breaking through. So he didn't want to use martial arts to waste his physical strength and true qi, so he hired the Blood Underworld sect as a thug. But in fact, Lin Yi still has the ability to kill high-level cultivators in seconds. After listening, Kong Ming Ming nodded, and a hint of unwillingness flashed across his face. Father-in-law, I think Lin Yi can't be left alive anymore. He can kill experts at the peak of the late stage of Heaven Stage in seconds now. In the future, won't he be able to kill you too? At that time, who in the entire cultivation world can be Lin Yi's opponent. Won't Lin Yi be able to kill whoever he wants, and no one can stop him? That's right. Patriarch Xianqin also nodded with a solemn expression. It's time to get rid of Lin Yi. Otherwise, he will definitely become a big problem in the future. Father-in-law, how about I start preparing the extreme qi-gathering pill? With Lin Yi's current strength, he's still interested in this thing. If Lin Yi's strength is higher, he won't need this pill at all. We won't be able to find a suitable way to kill him. Kong Ming Ming suggested. Okay, then you start preparing to refine it. It seems that this is the only way. Even if we offend Boss Bai, we have to get rid of Lin Yi. Otherwise, Lin Yi will really become a big problem. Patriarch Xianqin pondered for a moment, then nodded and said resolutely, Yes, sir. I will prepare the materials now. Kong Ming Ming was very happy. Patriarch Xianqin finally agreed to use this ultimate move to kill Lin Yi. This time, Lin Yi ate the ultimate qi-gathering pill. Let's see if he would die or not. Oh, right, you have to keep the matter of Little San and the others a secret. Don't tell anyone, Patriarch Xianqin reminded. If Boss Bai knows that we've started to target Lin Yi, it won't be good to give the pill to Lin Yi. I understand. Kong Ming Ming nodded. By now, Lin Yi had recovered his strength. He asked Meng Yao to call the Grand Elder to his room. Young hero Lin, you called for me? The Great Elder appeared in front of Lin Yi respectfully, as respectful as he could be. Grand Elder, there's no time to lose. Since Yao Yao said so, then I'll heal you, Lin Yi said faintly. Haha, then this old one, thanks young hero Lin. But you're Yao Yao's husband, so you're part of the Palace of Darkness. I won't say those polite words. I'm also one of Yao Yao's soldiers. If I recover my strength, it'll be good for the Palace of Darkness. The Great Elder became Meng Yao's subordinate in the blink of an eye. It made Lin Yi speechless. Grand Elder, let's not talk about that. Everyone knows who you were before, and what my relationship with the Palace of Darkness is. If it wasn't for Yao Yao, I wouldn't have done anything. Lin Yi waved his hand, ignoring the Elder's compliment. He didn't mind the Great Elder's compliments at all. How? The Great Elder smiled awkwardly. Young hero Lin, what do you need me to do now? You don't need to do anything, just wait. With that, Lin Yi reached out and grabbed the Great Elder's wrist. He started channeling the third stage of the art of dragon mastery and started healing the Great Elder. Lin Yi was getting more and more familiar with the third stage of the art of dragon mastery. It greatly shortened the healing time for Lin Yi. The Great Elder's injury was nothing to Lin Yi. This level of injury was something that could be healed in an hour or so. However, as Lin Yi channeled the chant, Lin Yi was pleasantly surprised to find that the third stage of the art of dragon mastery was showing signs of completion. Could it be that the third stage was about to break through? If that was the case, Lin Yi could go to West Star Village again and open the fourth stone door. What would be inside? Lin Yi was looking forward to it. Previously, the art of dragon mastery didn't show any signs of a breakthrough. Just when Lin Yi was about to give up, it was actually about to break through. Could it be related to the breakthrough of his strength level? Lin Yi could only attribute it to this, because the improvement of Lin Yi's strength level also meant that Lin Yi's body could hold more qi. Was it because of this that the art of dragon mastery was about to break through? This discovery made Lin Yi's heart suddenly happy. He didn't expect to treat the Great Elder's injury. Sometimes doing good deeds could actually lead to unexpected gains. Lin Yi didn't expect that the previous period of being a fugitive would be exchanged for good things. Not only did his strength increase, but his art of dragon mastery was also about to reach the third stage of completion. After quickly treating the Great Elder's injury, Lin Yi also planned to break through his own mantra here. To be honest, Lin Yi didn't really cultivate in the space of the jade pendant during this period of time. There were too many things to do, and Lin Yi's strength level also relied on elixirs to increase, so he neglected the most basic method of leveling up. Since the mantra showed signs of a breakthrough, then Lin Yi definitely wouldn't let it go this time. The news of the ancient times spread especially fast, even if Elder Xianqin and Kong Mingming kept quiet. But the scene that happened in the Dark Palace was seen by many disciples. These people couldn't be asked to keep it a secret, and in fact, Lin Yi didn't need them to keep it a secret. Lin Yi wanted to use these people's mouths to spread his strength. So, within a few days, the people of the ancient times knew that Lin Yi had returned and showed his power in the Dark Palace. He killed a peak late-stage heaven-class master and injured 2 peak late-stage heaven-class masters. Chapter 33:12. Who didn't know about the close relationship between Dark Palace's palace master, Chu Mengyao, and Lin Yi? As a result, there was nothing wrong with Mengyao helping Lin Yi with this. Of course, the ones who were the most shocked were the 3 ancestors of the blood-clothed underworld sect. They were having a headache. After Lin Yi came back, should they continue to help? Although Lin Dongfang supported them, they couldn't explain to Lin Yi. Lin Dongfang didn't let the ancestors tell Lin Yi about the matter, so they really didn't have an excuse to help Lin Yi. Just as they were worrying, they suddenly heard a shocking news. Lin Yi actually killed a peak late-phase heaven-class master in a second and injured 2 peak late-phase heaven-class masters. Was this possible? The 3 ancestors of the blood-clothed underworld sect had the same thought as others because they were the ones who truly understood Lin Yi's strength. Hence, they immediately called Lin Yi, Mr. Lin Yi. I'm the blood-clothed underworld sect's Yinsen ancestor. Yinsen ancestor said directly after picking up the phone. These few days, there's a rumor circulating in the ancient world. It said that you killed a peak late-phase heaven-class master in a second and injured 2 peak late-phase heaven-class masters. Is this true or not? It's true. Lin Yi didn't hide it. After all, the blood-clothed underworld sect had always shown enough goodwill. There was no need for Lin Yi to lie to them. Moreover, Lin Yi also wanted to spread this news. Oh, Mr. Lin Yi, you are so powerful now. Old ancestor Yinsen was shocked after hearing this and asked with some surprise. It's like this. My strength level has increased again. I'm now a mid-phase heaven-class master. And with this strength, I can use a secret technique to kill peak late-phase heaven-class masters. Lin Yi said. I see. When Ancestor Eerie Woods heard Lin Yi personally confirm it, he heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that it was impossible for Lin Yi to speak nonsense, since Lin Yi had said that it meant that he was very confident. Thinking up to this point, Eerie Forest Patriarch said, "Oh right, when you were not around, the Black Dragon Sex Master was not around. The Dongfang clan, the Everyday Sun sect, and the Black Horse Society came together to look for me. They found out that we were the ones who killed those people, but they thought that you were the one who hired us." "Oh, did they cause any trouble for you?" Lin Yi was a little apologetic, even though Bloodcloak was doing it for a mission. But in the end, they still helped him. If he hadn't spread the news that these people were killed by him, it wouldn't have been easy for them to investigate the blood-clothed underworld sect. It's been settled. However, we have to keep a low profile for now. Ancestor Eerie Woods said, "However, I'm afraid that they will find trouble with us." "To find trouble with you?" "I know it doesn't matter. Thank you for the reminder," Lin Yi said. "All right, that's it for now." Ancestor Eerie Forest couldn't say too much. After all, there were some relationships that Lin Yi didn't know, so they couldn't say it. However, to Lin Yi's surprise, the Dongfang clan was also fine. The Everyday Sun sect and the Black Horse Society chose to be silent for the time being. They didn't come to find trouble with Lin Yi because they really couldn't figure out Lin Yi's path. Lin Yi's back, and he killed a peak late-stage heaven rank expert in seconds. Even if many people held a skeptical attitude, this time no one was stupid. When they went to find trouble with the blood-clothed underworld sect, they still had lingering fears. Now that Lin Yi was back, they really didn't dare to find trouble with him. What if Lin Yi really had the strength to kill a peak late-stage heaven rank expert in seconds? Could he kill a great perfection expert in seconds? All of these were unknown, so these people all kept silent at the same time. These days, the second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron that Lu Jinghan made had also been completed and was sent to the Cultivator Trade Association for auction. However, this time, Kong Mingming wasn't worried, because second-grade medicinal cauldrons could only be made by the Heavenly Elixir sect. Therefore, no matter how well Lin Yi's medicinal cauldron sold, the raw materials couldn't bypass Kong Mingming. As long as Kong Ming didn't agree, then they wouldn't have the raw materials. Therefore, Kong Mingming was prepared to make a profit from the raw materials. He didn't need to worry that it would affect his business. After all, the demand for first-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons and second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons was different. Compared to a first-grade automatic medicinal cauldron, anyone with a fire attribute physique could become a first-grade alchemist after training and learning to control a first-grade automatic medicinal cauldron. The operating conditions for a second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron were slightly harsher. First of all, those half-baked alchemists lacked a wood attribute physique in their bodies. It was very difficult to upgrade to a second-grade alchemist. They weren't Han Jingjing, nor did they have the help of Lin Yi. The possibility of upgrading to a second-grade alchemist was almost zero. Therefore, the target of this second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron was those real alchemists. This alchemist could be someone who had just stepped into the second grade from the first grade, or a mature second-grade alchemist. In any case, as long as they were second-grade alchemists, they could use a second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron. However, the demand would be a little less. These 30 second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons basically covered the needs of these alchemists. Even if it wasn't enough, it wouldn't be much. This was a deviation from Kong Mingming's expectations. After all, Kong Mingming had never seen the finished products of these second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons. He had only heard rumors about how powerful they were and what kind of elixirs they could refine. Therefore, from his point of view, this second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron should be the same as a first-grade automatic medicinal cauldron. Any alchemist could use it. The sales should not be low. Therefore, in order to make a profit, Kong Mingming had stopped the supply of second-grade cauldrons in the market the moment Right Coiling Tiger's second-grade cauldron was given to Lin Yi. His goal was to hoard them and sell them to Lin Yi at a high price. Moreover, Kong Mingming was afraid that the supply would not be able to meet the demand and he wouldn't be able to make money. Therefore, he made preparations in advance to produce a batch of second-grade cauldrons and sell them to Lin Yi at a high price. Xiaoming, your idea isn't bad. Ancestor Xianqin nodded in agreement. We want to kill Lin Yi, but before Lin Yi dies, we have to squeeze out all his remaining value. With this second-grade cauldron, we can make a fortune. Chapter 30, 313. These two people were not suited for business. One was focused on research, cultivation, and matters related to inheritance, while the other was a crooked businessman. Therefore, the two of them only blindly followed the trend and did not know how to predict the market. They spent a lot of effort to get the technical plan of the first-grade automatic medical cauldron, but the sales were getting lower and lower. Just like the Kong family in the past, they only relied on a monopoly to make a fortune. Once the market was impacted, they would suffer losses. Now, Kong Mingming was the same. In terms of crafty ideas, Lu Jinghan might not be his opponent, but in business, even 10 Kong Mingmings would not be enough. Therefore, after the two of them saw the predicament, they turned their attention to the second-grade automatic medical cauldron that had not yet been put on sale. They hoped to make a fortune through the supply of raw materials for the second-grade automatic medical cauldron. However, they had never thought about how big the market for the second-grade automatic medical cauldron was. Or rather, they had misunderstood. They thought that the second-grade automatic medical cauldron was the same as the first-grade automatic medical cauldron. The threshold for using it was very low, and anyone could use it. Therefore, there would definitely be a sales frenzy. Then, should we use the money we earned from the first-grade intelligent medical cauldron to mass produce the second-grade cauldron? Kong Ming Ming asked. Yes, when the time comes, the production of the second-grade automatic medical cauldron will not be able to bypass our raw materials. Patriarch Xianqin nodded and said, since we can't make money from the production and sale of the second-grade automatic medical cauldron, we must seize the raw materials market. Who said we can't sell? Kong Ming Ming waved his hand and said proudly, Father-in-law, we are raw material suppliers. When the time comes, we can use this as a bargaining chip to negotiate with Lin Yi. The second-grade automatic medical cauldron produced by Lin Yi must be given to us to sell, and the price must be low. This way, we can directly label it as our heavenly elixir sex second-grade intelligent medical cauldron and sell it. Our customers won't think that we don't have follow-up products and technical support. Oh, that's a good idea. Speaking of which, Xiaoming, you're a business genius. After Patriarch Xianqin heard that, he immediately felt that it made sense. However, he did not come into contact with businesses in the secular world, so he did not know that this kind of labeling was the most common business method. It did not require any business acumen at all. The market could be seen everywhere, but when it came to Kong Ming Ming, he became a business genius. Haha, it's just a small trick. Although Kong Ming Ming said so, he looked very proud. You're in charge of following up on this matter. Then you have to hurry up with the matter of the extreme qi gathering pill. Get it? And kill that brat Lin Yi. Patriarch Xianqin said, Don't worry, father-in-law. Kong Ming Ming nodded. However, what Kong Ming Ming did not expect was that he had made hundreds of second-grade medicine cauldrons, but neither Lin Yi nor Lu Jinghan had shown any intention to buy second-grade medicine cauldrons. Seeing that the Cultivator Trading Association's second-grade automatic medicine cauldrons had begun to be auctioned, and the number was getting lesser and lesser, the sects that bought them were very favorable, but Lu Jinghan did not show any intention to buy more medicine cauldrons. Must be known that Kong Ming Ming was very clear that Lu Jinghan only had 30 second-grade medicine cauldrons provided by Right Coiling Tiger. She did not have any more. Seeing that they were about to be sold out, why was there no news at all? Could it be that she deliberately kept a low profile, and the purpose was to prevent him from raising the price? However, when there were only 10 second-grade automatic medicine cauldrons left, neither Lin Yi nor Lu Jinghan took the initiative to contact him. This made Kong Ming Ming very puzzled. How could this business be done like this? There were only 10 left in the inventory. If they did not replenish the stock, did they not want to do business? Moreover, the production still needed a certain amount of time, right? It was impossible to say that the moment you bought the raw materials, you would immediately produce it. Did you think it was an automated production line? However, the production of second-grade automatic medicine cauldrons needed to be handmade. Father-in-law, what do you think Lin Yi is trying to do? Does he want to make a one-time deal and not sell it in the future? Kong Ming Ming finally could not hold it in anymore and went to find Patriarch Xianqin. Patriarch Xianqin's grasp of the economy was not as good as Kong Ming Ming, so when he heard Kong Ming Ming's words, he was immediately a little dumbfounded. Xiaoming, is it very difficult to produce these second-grade automatic medicine cauldrons? Is Lin Yi thinking of not selling them in the future? That shouldn't be the case. Although this thing is difficult to make, it is also a real moneymaker. This money is enough for Lin Yi to build an orphanage. He shouldn't give up. Kong Ming Ming shook his head and said, Now, I am afraid that Lin Yi will produce his own second-grade medicine cauldrons or buy them from other channels. Then, won't our second-grade medicine cauldrons be unable to be sold? That's impossible. Although the difficulty of creating a second-grade cauldron wasn't that high, as long as one had the strength of a heaven rank yellow, rank third-level alchemist, they would be able to create it. However, how many heaven rank yellow, rank third-level alchemists were there? Moreover, many of the materials used to make this second-grade medicine cauldron are exclusively controlled by our heavenly elixir sect. They come from the edge of the 5 evils savage land. Other sects have no channels to get them. Is it Lin Yi or that Han Jingjing? Or Boss Bai? Even if they can make it, do they have a place to get the materials? That's true. Then Lin Yi probably wants to put on airs. Kong Ming had just finished speaking when his phone rang. He glanced at it and saw that it was his big brother, Kong Xiaolong. The hidden house was now wavering because of Lin Yi's strength. They didn't dare to leak information about Lin Yi. However, Kong Xiaolong, who was beside Yu Panhu, didn't have this concern. After he received the news, he called Kong Ming immediately. "Big brother, what's the matter?" Kong Ming asked after picking up the phone. Zhao Ming listened carefully. Just now, Lin Yi called Yu Panhu and asked if they still have any second-grade medicine cauldrons. Lin Yi wants some, but Yu Panhu's family doesn't have any left. He can only agree to help him think of a way to get 1 or 2. Kong Xiaolong said, "What?" Kong Ming was worried at first, but suddenly heard the good news. He slapped his thigh and said excitedly, "That's great, that's great! Big brother, this is very important. Don't worry if there are benefits in the future. You will definitely get them." Chapter 33:14. All right, after a while, I'll see what Heavenly Elixir sect can do in the secular world. I'll let you do it then. Kong Xiaoming had the confidence to do so. He was the son-in-law of Elder Xianqin. It was a piece of cake for him to get a few projects for House Kong. Plus, Kong Xiaolong had done a great job this time as well. After hanging up, the Xianqin ancestor didn't scold Kong Ming for giving benefits to House Kong on his own. He heard what Xiaolong said on the phone. Lin Yi had started to buy second-grade cauldrons. However, Lin Yi didn't buy from Heavenly Elixir sect or 5 Elements sect. Instead, he went to Yu Coiling Tiger. Haha, this Lin Yi, he didn't even think about where House Yu's second-grade cauldrons came from. Isn't it from Heavenly Elixir sect? As long as we block the source, no matter how powerful Lin Yi is, no matter how wide his connections are, it's all for naught. The Xianqin ancestor breathed a sigh of relief after hearing the news. Therefore, Elder Xianqin and Kong Xiaoming were reassured. They began to mass-produce and hoard second-grade cauldrons. From their point of view, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to monopolize and make a fortune. How could they let it go? However, when there were only 3 left, the Cultivator Trade Association announced that these were the last 3 cauldrons to be auctioned. From now on, this second-grade cauldron would no longer be sold in the market. These 3 cauldrons would be given as gifts to the Dark Palace. Next, they would introduce a new model of the cauldron, but the new model had technical difficulties that had yet to be overcome. The release date was yet to be determined. In other words, these 32nd-grade cauldrons, they would become an out-of-print product in the market. Those cultivators who originally had a dispensable attitude towards this auction were now shocked and regretting their decision. The reason was very simple. They thought to themselves, after these 30 were auctioned, as the number of cauldrons increased, this thing would definitely get cheaper. So they weren't in a hurry. According to the market of first-grade cauldrons, the Heavenly Elixir sect would definitely introduce imitations. At that time, this thing would be worthless. But who would have thought that this thing would become a rare item? And the last 3 were not auctioned off, but given to the Palace of Darkness. What did that mean? Could it be that they couldn't even buy medicine for regret? Indeed, they couldn't buy it, but the Palace of Darkness didn't need 3 at all. 1 was enough, and the other two were just Han Jingjing's gifts to Meng Yao. Meng Yao was the publicly acknowledged first wife of Lin Yi, so naturally, Han Jingjing would try to please her. The remaining two would be up to Meng Yao to decide who to sell them to. Not only would this help the Palace of Darkness build connections, but it would also create some income for them. Elder Dark Knight, your Palace of Darkness has been developing well recently. We're both from the ancient level, so we should get to know each other. I'll definitely pay you a visit in the next few days. Elder Dark Knight, I heard that your Palace Master Chu's boyfriend is Hero Lin Yi. He's incomparably brave and can instantly kill a peak, late-stage, heaven rank expert. We're really envious. Yeah, Elder Dark Knight, your Palace of Darkness not only has an inheritor, but also a master like Lin Yi. It'd be hard for you not to develop. The Grand Elder of the Palace of Darkness was here to represent the Palace of Darkness. She didn't want to come, but Meng Yao made her come, so she had to. In fact, Meng Yao knew that Han Jingjing would give her 3 second-rank cauldrons, which was why she asked the Grand Elder to go. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come. But what the Grand Elder didn't know was that the Palace of Darkness wasn't rich, and she couldn't afford a second-rank cauldron. Most importantly, the Grand Elder wasn't very sociable. Although, it wasn't that she wasn't sociable. In the ancient level, strength was everything. If you didn't have strength and the Palace of Darkness was weak, who would want to talk to you? It was good enough to ignore you. It was good enough that they didn't make sarcastic remarks. That was why the Grand Elder was never willing to participate in these masochistic gatherings. Although she once swore in her heart that she would make the Dark Palace stand at a height that others would fight to please in her lifetime, just like the Heavenly Elixir sect. But as she grew older, and as time passed, the Grand Elder's dream never changed, but reality made her understand that it was impossible for the Palace of Darkness to catch up. Palace Master Yi Huaner was just a puppet, and she alone couldn't change anything. However, all of this changed drastically after Yao became the Palace Lord of the Dark Knight Palace. Of course, the Grand Elder understood that rather than saying that it was Meng Yao's change, it was more because she found a good bodyguard, and that person was Lin Yi. The Grand Elder knew the relationship between Meng Yao and Lin Yi, but she still insisted on making Lin Yi Meng Yao's fiancé because she saw a bright future for the Palace of Darkness. But even if the Grand Elder was optimistic about the future of the Palace of Darkness, she didn't think that this moment would come so quickly, so suddenly. At this moment, the Grand Elder had a surreal feeling, and he was unable to deal with this situation. Looking at these sect masters and elders who were fawning over him, the Grand Elder had an urge to cry. She did it. She finally did it. Although it wasn't the Grand Elder who did it, it didn't matter. As long as the Palace of Darkness grew, she could die without regrets. The Grand Elder didn't think that Lin Yi's influence would be this big, to be able to make these people act like this. Wasn't it just a second-rank cauldron? In fact, there was also Lin Yi's power. These ancient sects didn't have any grudges with Lin Yi, and other than a few, they didn't want to make enemies with Lin Yi. It didn't matter if Lin Yi could kill him in one shot or not. Anyway, Lin Yi was definitely very strong, so these people didn't want to mess with him if they could. The Grand Elder was busy chatting with these people, but in her heart, she was happy, wishing that this would happen every day. The commotion here, however, made the face of someone on the other side darken. This person was Kong Mingming. He came with Xiao Yi. He thought that after Lin Yi sold all 3 cauldrons, Lin Yi would definitely beg him, Kong Mingming, to order the materials for the cauldrons. Chapter 33:15. For example, leaving Wang Xinyan, returning Wang Xinyan to his brother, taking back little Yi's heaven-grade weapon, and so on. However, the scene in front of him made Kong Mingming feel like he was struck by lightning. He was dumbfounded and speechless. What? After these 32nd grade cauldrons were sold out, they wouldn't be selling them anymore? They were going to produce improved products, but they hadn't overcome the technical difficulties. What did this mean? The time to be on the market was unknown. In other words, it was uncertain whether they would be on the market or not. If they didn't overcome the technical difficulties, there would be no second-grade cauldrons to be sold in the future? How could this be? What about the 300 second-grade cauldrons he had just made in his house? Who were they going to sell them to? Little Yi's breathing was also very rapid. He knew very well that he and Ancestor Xianqin were bound together for good or ill. If Ancestor Xianqin and Kong Xiaoming's second-grade cauldrons couldn't be sold, then what would happen? Brother Kong, Little Yi took a deep breath and turned to look at Kong Mingming. Don't panic. Kong Mingming forced himself to calm down and said, Lin, he must need a second-grade cauldron. Otherwise, why would he call the hidden right family to ask? Although there are technical difficulties to overcome for the second-grade cauldrons he made, the raw materials are second-grade cauldrons. Moreover, Lin is not stupid. If he really couldn't overcome the technical difficulties, would he be stupid enough to give up this market? Obviously not. I don't believe that Lin would be so stupid. He will definitely continue to make the current second-grade cauldrons. So, our second-grade cauldrons won't be left no matter what. It's just a matter of time. Brother Kong is really a genius. You can analyze Lin Yi's thoughts in such a short time. No wonder Master values you so much. After hearing Kong Mingming's words, little Yi was relieved as if he had taken a tranquilizer. Now, in his opinion, Kong Mingming still had some ability. No wonder Ancestor Xianqin wanted little Yi to marry him. Although his cultivation strength wasn't high, his IQ was still quite high. Wasn't the Five Elements sect lacking such a person now? The two of them calmed down and returned to the Five Elements sect. Kong Mingming told Patriarch Xianqin about his analysis. Patriarch Xianqin was relieved. After all, Kong Mingming's analysis was very reasonable. In fact, what they didn't know was that this second-class automatic medicinal cauldron was just a temporary substitute suggested by Lin. His purpose was to trick Kong Mingming. Han Jingjing had already found the materials that could replace a Grade 2 cauldron. The so-called technical difficulties were just Han Jingjing wanting to perfect the second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron a little more. After all, the current second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron could only be controlled by a limited number of people. Only a second-grade alchemist could use it. However, there were only a few second-grade alchemists in the entire ancient times. If you were to produce so many second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons, who would you sell them to? This thing wouldn't break down so quickly unless it was done improperly and caused an explosion. Otherwise, a cauldron could be used for a few years or even decades. If you produced this kind of cauldron again, you wouldn't be able to sell it at all. During this time, Lin Yi had been staying in the Palace of Darkness to practice. The third level of the art of dragon mastery was about to break through to the level of perfection. Lin Yi was ready to break through in one go. However, Lin Yi knew that this thing wasn't something that could be achieved in a day. Whether or not he could successfully break through, it was up to fate. Just when the Grand Elder happily returned to the Palace of Darkness with the 3 second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons, Lin Yi also received a call from Han Jingjing, or rather Lu Jinghan. There were a lot of sect masters and elders who wanted to use high prices or other resources to exchange for the cauldrons from the Grand Elder. But the Grand Elder didn't agree. She was very clear about her position in the Palace of Darkness and was ready to let Meng Yao make the decision when she came back. However, she noted down all the conditions that each family offered, so that Meng Yao could come up with a plan to sell the 2 extra cauldrons to which family they should sell them. Jingjing, it's about the cauldrons, right? Lin, you picked up and asked. Yes, Linny bro, you really know everything. Han Jingjing said, surprised. Lu Jinghan, stop complimenting me. I'm not used to it. Lin Yi sweated. Han Jingjing's compliments always made him feel awkward. I'm Han Jingjing. Could it be that Lin Yi bro likes business genius girls like Lu Jinghan? Han Jingjing asked. Then it'll be Han Jingjing. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Do you have a new plan? Actually, you can make your own decisions. You don't have to discuss everything with me. Actually, it's like this. Second-grade automatic cauldrons that use replacement materials can be sold in the market at any time. We've already found a solution to the problem of the cauldron materials. However, if it's just a replacement material, even if the quality is slightly better, it won't be able to increase the sales. Han Jingjing said, the current second-grade automatic cauldrons use sky elixir sex cauldrons as raw materials, and they can be used for years or even decades. Our substitute materials, on the other hand, can be used for decades. There's a difference in essence, but it's not that big. We can't wait for a decade before we sell it. Oh, then what's the situation now? Lin Yi asked. The second-grade automatic cauldrons were selling well recently, and Lin Yi had gotten a huge sum of money from the Overseas Practitioners Association. It was still in the jade space, and he didn't have time to give it to Xiaoka. Plus, with the money transfer, the orphanage didn't lack money anymore. It was on the right track, and Lin Yi had one less thing to worry about. So, Lin Yi didn't need money that much, but Lin Yi knew that the company's operations had reached a certain scale, and it had become a business that House Lu, Fatty Lai, and Kong Xiaobo depended on to survive. It couldn't be stopped or shut down, so Lin Yi had to keep helping them. The current situation is that Jingjing has invented a cauldron that allows a first-grade refiner to refine second-grade pills. Han Jingjing's words were earth-shattering, and it gave Lin Yi a big fright. What? A first-grade refiner can refine second-grade pills? Lin Yi couldn't be blamed for his shock. This was simply overturning the millennium-old laws and rules of the cultivation world. If a first-grade refiner could refine second-grade pills, then the status of a second-grade refiner would plummet. Chapter 30, 3:16. Yes, but now there is still a technical problem. Han Jingjing said, the principle of this first and second grade automatic medicinal cauldron is to rely on the first grade alchemist to control the temperature of the alchemy fire. In terms of fire intensity, the alchemy fire of the first grade alchemist is definitely not as good as the fire intensity of the second grade alchemist's alchemy fire. In this part, we can rely on external forces to make up for it. I think this external force is a material that can store and provide heaven and earth aura. As long as we find this material, we can make the first and second grade automatic medicinal cauldron. It's just that this material is quite difficult to find, and charging it with energy is also a problem. Although we can earn a lot of follow-up profits by constantly helping the first and second grade automatic medicinal cauldron to charge, even if this material is found, how to charge it with energy and how to charge it is also a problem. Han Jingjing's words were not complicated. It was nothing more than a condition that the first-grade alchemist could not meet. This new version of first- and second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron could be used to make up for it. This principle was the same as Lin Yi's original idea of using the joint attack technique to let multiple alchemists simultaneously perform alchemy. He didn't expect that after Han Jingjing heard it, she directly applied it on the new version of the automatic medicinal cauldron. He had to say that Han Jingjing was a little genius. If this kind of medicinal cauldron went on the market, it would probably bring an unimaginable rush to buy it, and the subsequent after-sales service charging would also be an astronomical profit. But the same problem was how to store energy and qi. Lin Yi had a flash of inspiration. The first thing that came to mind was Faubert's heirloom white energy stone. Later, the thing that Yu Dake brought was the same thing. In other words, this white energy stone could store and release energy and qi. However, this kind of thing was rare. At first, It was regarded as a treasure by Faubert's sect, and later, not many were found. One could imagine the rarity of this thing. But later, Udake brought a treasure map, saying that there was a lot of this stone in the treasure. Could it be possible to get these stones out? Thinking of this, Lin Yi fell silent and began to plan in his heart. Even without Han Jingjing, Lin Yi had planned to go to the Hakanamada Desert. According to the information provided by the Red Conches, there was a poison refining base there. Moreover, it was the largest poison refining base in the Red Conches. Perhaps there would be news of the pangolin there. Big brother Lin Yi, what are you thinking? Are you thinking of that white energy stone? Han Jingjing asked. You've also thought of it. Only then did Lin Yi remember that Han Jingjing also knew about this matter. When he was free, Lin Yi had given the stone to Han Jingjing to study. Yes, when Jingjing designed the first and second grade automatic medicinal cauldrons, she used this white energy stone as a reference. Jingjing thought that the principle of this thing is probably the same. So when Jingjing designed it, she also used the white energy stone as the prototype. Han Jingjing said, in other words, as long as we have this white energy stone, we can mass produce it, right? Lin Yi nodded and made up his mind to go to the Hakanamada Desert. Yes, but this only solves the initial problem. The key is to recharge. Han Jingjing paused and continued, or if we have enough white energy stones to replace it. This is a difficult problem. Lin Yi frowned. Where did the energy of this white energy stone come from? After using it, could it be recharged? After thinking about it, Lin Yi said, Jingjing, wait a minute. I'll make a call and ask about this matter. Lin Yi patted his head. How could he forget about Boss Bai? Boss Bai, as the former sect master of the Five Elements faction, was very knowledgeable. Since Little 11 didn't take away the energy stone after seeing it, but threw it aside in disdain, it meant that she had seen this thing before. So, if she had seen this thing, how could Boss Bai not have seen it before? Thinking about this, Lin Yi decided to ask Boss Bai for advice. Okay, brother Lin Yi, I'll wait for your news. Oh, I've returned to East Ocean City. I'm at the mansion. When will you come back? Han Jingjing somewhat missed Lin Yi. When Lin Yi came back, she wasn't at home. When she received the news and came back, Lin Yi was already gone. In fact, Lin Yi left the mansion after one night, and Han Jingjing couldn't make it back in time the next day. Okay, I'll go back now. I also want to visit Ms. Bai, Lin Yi said. Then I'll be waiting for you. Han Jingjing nodded happily. Lin Yi got up and left the guest room. He was leaving the Palace of Darkness. He had stayed in the Palace of Darkness for about a week. Lin Yi's third stage of the art of dragon mastery was close to completion, but it wasn't complete yet. He had been stagnating these few days, so it was time for Lin Yi to leave. Although Meng Yao knew that Lin Yi couldn't always stay with her in the Palace of Darkness, she didn't expect that when the day really came, she would be this sad, just like the last time they parted. Meng Yao imagined that Lin Yi could stay with her in the Palace of Darkness. Although they didn't see each other much, and Lin Yi was there most of the time, it was enough. It was just like when they were in the mansion. Knowing that Lin Yi was by her side, Meng Yao felt very safe. But Meng Yao was a rational person. She knew that Lin Yi still had many things to do, and it was impossible for him to not leave. Only when Lin Yi kept improving could they be together in the future. Lin Yi had to improve his strength in order to face the Sky Island project in the future. After saying goodbye to Meng Yao and the Grand Elder, Meng Yao didn't want to leave, but she didn't show it on her face. She was just a little sad. The miss was like that. She kept a lot of things in her heart and wouldn't say it out loud. That night, Lin Yi rode the purple lightning beast back to Donghai City. When Lin Yi got home, he saw Han Jingjing in the living room. Big bro Lin Yi, you're back. Han Jingjing, Yushu, and Xinyan were very familiar with each other, so she didn't feel strange at all. And Jingjing, pack up. We'll go see Ms. Bai together. Lin he wanted to settle this as soon as possible and leave for Hakanamada Desert. Chapter 30, 3:17. Yushu and Xinyan didn't know what to do, but they heard from Han Jingjing that Lin he was going to see Boss Bai after he came back. It was already very late, but Boss Bai was happy to hear that Lin he was coming. However, in Boss Bai's living room, Lin he unexpectedly saw Himeiwe. He didn't expect Himeiwe to move into Boss Bai's house. Did this mean that Bai Weitua had gotten Himeiwe? As expected, when Lin he glanced at Bai Weitua was a little embarrassed. Boss, I've already brought Meiwe to see her parents. We've made plans to go to Southeast Asia tomorrow, so Meiwe will be staying here tonight. Lin he nodded. Although Lin he always felt that Meiwe wasn't very reliable. Since Bai Weitua liked her, Lin he didn't want to interfere too much. Have fun. Lin he smiled. Boss, are you really not going? You're not bringing sis-in-law Xinyan. Ugh. And sis-in-law Jingjing. Bai Weitua saw Han Jingjing and knew that he said the wrong thing. It was really harmful to speak without thinking. Han Jingjing was obviously here, but she had to mention Xinyan. Bai Weitua was a little depressed. Even an idiot could see that Han Jingjing and Lin Yi's relationship wasn't ordinary. However, Han Jingjing didn't have any expression of jealousy. Instead, when she heard him call her sis-in-law, she was a little shy. This made Bai Weitua feel relieved. I'm not going. I have a lot of things to do here. Are you two going tomorrow? Lin Yi asked. Fan Ganha and Zhang Duopan are going too. Who knows why they're going? But we're not on the same schedule. When it came to this matter, Bai Weitua was a little annoyed. These two people were really haunting him. Himeiwe had already confirmed a relationship with him. Did Zhang Duopan still want to interfere with it? Those two. Lin Yi frowned after hearing this. Be careful. Don't worry, boss. I'll stay away from them. Bai Weitua nodded. Lin Yi didn't say anything more. He turned around and said to Boss Bai, Mr. Bai, shall we talk in the study? Let's go. Boss Bai knew that Lin Yi must have a reason to visit him so late, so he stood up and walked to the library first, followed by Lin Yi and Han Jingjing. After they entered the study, Bai Weitua said to Himeiwe with a smile, Meiwe, it's getting late. Shall we go rest? What rest? Grandpa Bai didn't rest, and you're telling me to rest? Aren't you making a fool of yourself? What's going on in your head? Himeiwe and Bai Weitua had not broken through the last line of defense, but the two of them were already kissing and hugging. Even so, Bai Weitua could not stop. Hee, then let's watch TV here for a while. Bai Weitua laughed twice and sat on the sofa, helplessly. However, after Himeiwe sat down, she glanced at Bai Weitua and said shyly, Bai Weitua, how about you take a bath first? Seeing that you've endured so much these days, I promise to reward you tonight. I can use my mouth to help you. Do it once, but you have to wash it clean. If you can't do it properly, don't blame me for not keeping my promise. Ah. After hearing Himeiwe's words, Bai Weitua was pleasantly surprised. He quickly stood up, patted his chest and promised, Don't worry, I will definitely wash it well. I promise to wash it very clean. 3 circles inside and 3 circles outside. You won't find any problem. And okay, I'll check the time. Don't come out less than half an hour. Himeiwe nodded with satisfaction. Of course, half an hour is too short, at least 30 minutes. Bai Weitua laughed and rushed in the direction of the bathroom. After seeing Bai Weitua enter the bathroom, Himeiwe, who was originally sitting on the sofa, had a complicated look in her eyes. Then she stood up, picked up a cup of water on the coffee table, and walked in the direction of the water dispenser. However, when she passed by the study room, she seemed to have slipped and held on to the door of the study room for support before stopping. Although Lin Yi was a heaven stage expert, he also felt that someone was coming from the door of the study room. But then there was the sound of the water dispenser, so Lin Yi didn't care. After all, the people outside the door were Bai Weitua and others. Lin, he didn't need to suspect anything. Besides, this person just went to get the water and didn't stay at the door of the study room. At this moment, Lin Yi just finished chatting with Boss Bai and briefly talked about what happened recently. Then he went into the main topic. Teacher Bai, you must have heard about the latest second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron, right? Lin Yi asked. Why haven't I heard about it? Your second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron has been in the limelight recently. But why? I heard that this medicinal cauldron has stopped selling. Are you preparing to research some improved version? Boss Bai asked. Yes, it is indeed like this. This rumor is not wrong. Lin Yi directly admitted this point. We are developing a new generation of second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron. It will no longer use second-grade medicinal cauldron as the raw material, but use a new type of substitute material to make it. But we have encountered a technical problem. Oh, you have found the substitute material? That's really great. Boss Bai nodded after listening and said, I have to tell you before that even if the raw material of this second-grade medicinal cauldron is ordered from the Hidden Yu family, their medicinal cauldron also comes from the Heavenly Elixir sect, which is the 5 Elements sect. So, this is not a long-term solution. But since you have found it, there is no problem. Yes, but the current difficulty is to make this second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron more intelligent. Lin, he said, it's like this. As Lin Yi spoke, he explained the principle and function of the new first-grade and second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron, invented by Han Jingjing to Boss Bai in detail. Oh, so this medicinal cauldron is actually so powerful? Boss Bai was a senior alchemist. His understanding of alchemy was even deeper than that of Lin Yi. At this time, when he heard that there was actually such a medicinal cauldron, he was very surprised. He also knew what kind of impact this kind of medicinal cauldron would have on alchemists. Yes, but this kind of white energy stone is very rare. Lin Yi said, here is a map which was given to me by a friend. It is said that in the distant Hakanamada Desert there is such a white energy stone mine, and there are many white energy stones in it. Chapter 30, 318. What's wrong, Mr. Bai? Is there anything wrong? Seeing Boss Bai's expression, Lin Yi's heart sank slightly. It seemed that things were not as simple as he had imagined. Lin Yi, even if you go to the Hakanamada Desert, you may not be able to get the white energy stone. Boss Bai shook his head and said, because I know very well about the white energy stone. It was recorded in detail in the 5 Elements sect's journal. What do you mean? Is there no white energy stone there? Is this map a lie? Lin Yi was stunned and asked. The map is not a lie. There is indeed a white energy stone mine there. Boss Bai paused for a moment and then continued. However, that place is not an ownerless place. It has long been controlled by someone, and it is a family of cultivators. A cultivation family? Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that things were not as easy as he had imagined. That's right. There is a mysterious race called the Bubbly Clan in the Hakanamada Desert. This race can be said to be human, but also not human. No one knows what they are, because they have never revealed it. They appear in human form, but they look very different from ordinary people. At first, everyone thought that they were people from a foreign land, and it was normal for them to look different. But with the development of science and technology and the popularization of the internet, even people in the cultivation world can use the internet. People found that the appearance of this race is different from that of foreigners. It is special, so we suspect that they are not a human race. Boss Bai explained. The Bubbly Clan? Not human. Lin Yi was a little surprised after hearing this, but not to the extent of being shocked. After all, Lin Yi had seen the Great Flame Lion Clan, the Spider Clan, and there were Purple Electric Beast Clan and other cultivating spirit beasts around him. So it was not surprising that other non-human clans could cultivate. Yes, but I'm not sure because the Bubbly clan, apart from our Five Elements sect and the Cultivators Trade Association, have little contact with other people and have little information. Boss Bai paused for a moment and said, when they came to the cultivation world on Huasha's side, the Bubbly clan didn't have much contact with other people. They're here to do business. Through our Five Elements sect, they've contacted the Cultivators Trade Association, and then they're selling the white energy stones in exchange for the cultivation resources they need. So they're saying that their white energy stones can be sold? Lin Yi's interest was piqued at this point. But these white energy stones, I don't think it's very common now. Yes, but that was in the past. In the last 200 to 300 years, the Bubbly clan no longer had dealings with this side. During their last transaction, they also said that the white energy stone mines were becoming fewer and fewer. They would keep the rest for their own use. As for the cultivation resources they traded, they would have to pay for it. It was enough for them to use for several lifetimes, so they stopped trading. Boss Bai said, so after the passage of these 200 or 300 years, most of the cultivators who know about this kind of white energy stone have either passed away or are too lazy to mention it. Lin Yi nodded after hearing this. Time could annihilate a lot of things. 200 or 300 years was enough for the white energy stone to be annihilated in the tide of history, because let alone 200 or 300 years, even 100 years was enough for many people to forget these things. However, it wasn't surprising that Little 11 and the others knew about white energy stones. The Five Elements sect was the first sect to contact the Bubbly clan, so it was likely that the Five Elements sect still had some white energy stones in stock. It was no wonder that Little 11 was disdainful of them. If that's the case, then this thing belongs to the Bubbly clan. Does that mean that even if I go to the Hakanamada Desert and find the location on this map, it won't do me any good, and I won't be able to get the white energy stones? After hearing this, Lin Yi couldn't help but be very disappointed. It seemed that Yu Dake's so-called treasure map might not be a treasure map, but a map of the Bubbly clan's location. The person who originally traded with the Bubbly clan might have obtained a white energy stone and a map from them, and wanted to exchange it later. But these two things somehow fell into the hands of Yu Dake, making him mistakenly think that they were good things. That's not necessarily true. Because so many years have passed, maybe the Bubbly clan has found a new energy stone mine. It's just that there has been no trade for so many years, and the remaining cultivation resources in their hands are enough. So they have not come to trade again. Boss Bai waved his hand and said, so if you have this with you, there is no harm in going to take a look. I see. In that case, I should really try my luck. After listening, Lin Yi nodded and said, yes, the Bubbly clan is relatively easy to deal with. For them, as long as you pay enough price and sincerity, they will also return the favor. Boss Bai said, in that case, thank you, Teacher Bai. It's getting late, I'll go back first. After getting the answer he wanted, Lin Yi did not stay any longer. After all, it was already very late. Okay, I won't see you off. Boss Bai paused here and said, I heard about the matter of the Dark Knight Palace. It should be related to Xianqin. You should be careful. I know. Lin Yi had already suspected Kong Mingming before. At this time, when Boss Bai said this, Lin Yi was even more sure that this matter was caused by ancestor Xianqin and Kong Mingming. However, even if he knew, Lin Yi could not do anything for the time being. Lin Yi knew his own strength. It was true that he could instantly kill experts with the strength of the peak late stage of Heaven Stage, but he could not do it continuously. Moreover, the Five Elements sect still had experts with the strength of the peak late stage of Heaven Stage perfection. Lin Yi could not directly kill them. Not long after Lin Yi and Han Jingjing left Boss Bai's residence, in the distant Five Elements sect, Ancestor Xuanqin's face was very gloomy. At this time, Kong Mingming beside him was also full of shock, astonishment, and disbelief. Father-in-law, is what you said true? Lin Yi does not intend to use the second-grade medicinal cauldron as raw material to produce second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons? Kong Mingming asked very unwillingly. Chapter 30, 319. So, all the second-grade medicinal cauldrons we've made before are in vain? Kong Mingming's whole body was like a balloon that had been sucked dry, and his whole body went limp on the ground. One had to know that this was his entire stake. The idea was good. If he could seize the source of raw materials from Lin Yi, he would not be afraid that Lin Yi would not cooperate with him obediently. But what about now? Lin Yi had replaced the second-grade medicinal cauldrons, and all the second-grade medicinal cauldrons produced by Kong Mingming were useless. Not only was it a waste of manpower and material resources, but most importantly, the Five Elements sect did not have the capital to cooperate with Lin Yi anymore. If there is no accident, it should be like this. Ancestor Xianqin was originally powerless when it came to business matters. Now that this had happened, he had no idea what to do. However, he did not blame Kong Mingming. After all, he was the one who had made the decision in the beginning. Now that there was a problem, he also had a lot of responsibility. If there is no accident, father-in-law, why don't we give him an accident? When Kong Mingming said this, his face flashed a touch of ferociousness. Lin Yi, you forced me to do this. Since you don't know how to appreciate favors and don't cooperate with us, then don't blame me for fighting to the death with you. An accident? How can there be an accident? Ancestor Xianqin was originally at his wit's end, but after hearing Kong Mingming's words, his eyes suddenly lit up and he quickly asked, Hee, isn't Lin Yi going to the Hakanamada desert to find the Bubbly clan? Kong Mingming said, Father-in-law, you should have the contact information of the Bubbly clan, right? Boss Bai also said that as long as we pay enough sincerity and bargaining chips, the Bubbly clan will return the favor. In this case, why don't we make the first move and let the Bubbly clan refuse to cooperate with Lin Yi and refuse to sell the white energy stones to Lin Yi? In this way, I'm afraid that Lin Yi's plan of the first-grade and second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons will come to an end. It's not impossible, but if we do this, even if Lin Yi doesn't produce the first-grade and second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons and only produces the existing second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons and replaces them with new materials, we still have no competitiveness. Ancestor Xianqin did not have Kong Mingming's business sense, so he did not understand Kong Mingming's meaning. It's like this. As long as there are no white energy stones, they can only produce the current second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons. Even if they replace the materials of the medicinal cauldrons, the function will still be the same, right? Kong Mingming paused and continued. As long as this is the case, we will have the strength to compete. Now, our Heavenly Elixir sect also has a second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron on the market. When the time comes, we can let Dr. Benjamin too imitate it. It should be possible to imitate it. It's just a matter of time. At that time, we will also sell and compete with them. In this way, we don't have to worry about those second-grade automatic medicinal cauldrons not being sold. Good idea. Ancestor Xianqin nodded. Although he was not as smart as Kong Mingming in business matters, when it came to ruthlessness, he was even worse than Kong Mingming. He thought for a while and came up with a more ruthless method. If Lin Yi dies, then this medicinal cauldron will be sold exclusively by our Heavenly Elixir sect in the future? At that time, we can earn as much money as we want. Oh, father-in-law, you want to get rid of Lin Yi? When Kong Mingming heard this, he was pleasantly surprised. But Lin Yi's strength is there. Wasn't he able to instantly kill a peak late heaven rank expert? Who should we send to kill Lin Yi? Us? We don't need to do it. Elder Xianqin shook his head and chuckled. The Bubbly clan isn't weak. As far as I know, they already have 3 experts at the peak of the late stage of heaven rank. Now, I'm afraid they have even more. Let them test the waters and get rid of Lin Yi. It's a good idea. Now, no one knows if Lin Yi can fight against a peak, late, heaven rank, great perfection expert. So, with the bubbly clan taking action, it will save me a lot of probing. Moreover, even if we fail, we won't lose anything. That's a good idea. I didn't expect the bubbly clan to be so formidable. But father-in-law, can they make a move? Kong Mingming was confident that the bubbly clan wouldn't make a deal with Lin Yi, but he wasn't confident that they would be able to get rid of Lin Yi. So he couldn't help but worry. We have to give it a try. Ancestor Xianqin pondered for a moment and said, How about this? You make a move now. Go to the bubbly clan and negotiate with them with my keepsake. Ah, I have to go personally. Kong Mingming was stunned. The bubbly clan hasn't contacted the cultivation world in the Central Plains for 200 to 300 years. I don't have any way to contact them. After all, there were no telephones at that time, and the messenger pigeons that specialize in delivering letters are all dead. If I don't go personally, I really have no way to contact them, Ancestor Xianqin said. But don't worry, the bubbly clan's earliest emissary to the Central Plains contacted our 5-element sect. If you go with the identity of a disciple of our 5-element sect, they won't make things difficult for you. That's good. Kong Mingming thought that if he could get Lin Yi to die, so what if he had to travel all the way to the Hakanamada Desert? As long as Lin Yi was dead, it would be worth it no matter how tiring it was. If that's the case, pack your things and leave tomorrow. Ancestor Xianqin ordered. The next morning, Kong Mingming packed his things and set off for the Hakanamada Desert with Lin. He actually planned to leave in a few days, but who would have thought that something big would happen at this time, forcing Lin Yi to stop for a while. He canceled his plan to go to the Hakanamada Desert and stayed in EC City. Xinyan had fainted. She'd fainted without any warning. In fact, it was very simple. That morning, Shu was supposed to wake up with Wang Xinyan to eat breakfast made by Lin Yi, but Wang Xinyan was still sound asleep. At first, Shu didn't think much of it. She went downstairs alone. After all, it wasn't a big deal for Wang Xinyan to sleep in. In Shu's opinion, it might be because Lin Yi just came back last night, and Wang Xinyan was a little excited. The two chatted for a long time in the middle of the night before going to bed. So, when Lin Yi didn't see Wang Xinyan, he asked Shu. Shu said that Wang Xinyan slept late last night and didn't wake up. Lin Yi didn't think much of it. Chapter 30, 320. Wang Xinyan was a very disciplined person. She'd wake up by now even if she was sleeping late, unless she was sick. Shu, go upstairs and have a look. Why isn't Xianyan up yet? Lin Yi didn't realize that something was wrong yet. He was just curious. Shu didn't think there was anything wrong with that. She went upstairs and saw that Xinyan was still sound asleep. She pushed her a few times, but Xinyan didn't wake up. She pushed her a few more times, but Xinyan didn't move at all. Shu started to panic. It wasn't like this hadn't happened to Xinyan before, but it was a long time ago. Lin Yi had gotten the medicine from the Snowy Valley, and Xinyan was no different from a normal person after using it. She was relieved, but now it seemed like Xinyan was acting up again. Shield bro. Shu hurriedly ran out of the room and stood at the staircase on the second floor of the villa, shouting, "Oh no, Sister Xianyan fainted again!" What? Lin Yi, who was washing the dishes in the kitchen, paused and ran up to the second floor. Wang Xinyan fainted again. What happened? Lin Yi didn't have time to talk to Shu. He rushed into the bedroom and put his hand on Xinyan's wrist. Lin Yi frowned. Lin Yi was a doctor. There was no way he wouldn't be able to tell that Xinyan was in a coma. But why was Xinyan unconscious? At this moment, Lin Yi could clearly feel that Xinyan's life force was weakening. Could it be that the jade orchid grass wasn't working anymore? Or could it be that the amount he took last time was not enough? But that was impossible. Old Lin said it before. As long as there was jade orchid grass, Xinyan would be fine. How could there be a problem? But the truth was right in front of him. Lin Yi couldn't question it. So after a moment of silence, Lin Yi decisively dialed Old Lin's number. Congratulations, Lil Yi. You've been improving pretty fast, haven't you? Old Lin also learned from the Bloodcloth Underworld sect that Lin Yi could now instantly kill a peak late-stage heaven rank expert. He was very gratified. It seemed that Lin Yi had dodged another calamity. He grew up in the midst of the calamity. Old man, let's talk about this later. I have something more important to discuss with you. Lin Yi wasn't in the mood to exchange pleasantries with Old Man Lin. If it was any other time, he would have told Old Man Lin about his experiences. But now, because of Wang Xinyan, Lin Yi didn't want to waste precious time. Oh, Lin Dongfang was slightly taken aback and said solemnly, "What happened?" Wang Xinyan fainted again. Lin Yi said straightforwardly, "I checked her body just now, and the vitality in her body is gradually decreasing. What's going on?" The orchid jade grass from before. Didn't they say that Wang Xinyan's problem was completely cured? Why did she faint? Fainted again. Lin Dongfang's brows suddenly furrowed. He was very clear about Wang Xinyan's situation because he was the one who personally diagnosed and treated Wang Xinyan. He just didn't expect that Wang Xinyan would have this situation again, born weak and sickly. Took the orchid jade grass. Wait. Lin Dongfang's expression suddenly changed. He seemed to have thought of something, and a flash of inspiration flashed across his mind, but he couldn't grasp these two keywords. It opened up Lin Dongfang's sealed memories, and it made him think of some things when he was young. Some things with Lin Yi's master, Yangming, when he was roaming the world. Those people, those things, yes. Lin Dongfang stood up abruptly. He thought of something very important. Although he didn't dare to confirm it immediately, from Wang Xinyan's situation, it seemed to be very close. Lin Dongfang was silent, and Lin Yi could feel his rapid breathing. Lin Yi knew that old Lin must be thinking about something, so he didn't disturb him and waited quietly. As expected, after a while, Lin Dongfang's voice sounded again. "Lily, Wang Xinyan's situation made me think of something, but I can't be sure. How about this? I need to look up some information. Wait for my call." Then, "How do we save Xinyan now?" Lin Yi asked. "Don't worry about her for now. In this situation, her life is not in danger if my guess is correct." At this point, Lin Dongfang's tone slowed down. Then he said solemnly, "If my guess is wrong, then I don't know what's going on with her. If that's the case, then I'm even more helpless. So you better wait for my news." All right. Although Lin Yi was worried, since old Lin had already said this, Lin Yi also knew that there was no other way. The only thing left was to wait. Time passed minute by minute. Although it was only a short 10 minutes since he hung up the phone, Lin Yi felt like it was a year. Xiao Shu also looked anxious. "Shield bro, Xinyan sis, is it also an inheritance?" Inheritance? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. Now, according to what Lin Yi knew, there were 7 inheritors of the 5 elements and 7 attributes. Among them were Xiao Xiao, Xiao Shu, Yao Yao, and Little Jiu. There were still 3 missing. Could Wang Xinyan be one of them? Although Lin Yi felt that it was possible, through his contact with Wang Xinyan, Lin Yi didn't feel that Wang Xinyan had any special attributes, but he didn't rule out the possibility that this attribute was hidden and just activated. But this possibility was very small, because Wang Xinyan's fainting problem wasn't new. She had been weak since she was young. So Lin Yi shook his head. Although there is a possibility, but it's not big. Let's wait for my grandpa's news. Okay, Yushu said casually, and the 2 guarded Wang Xinyan's side, quietly waiting for the news. Half an hour passed like a year for Lin Yi, and Lin Dongfang finally called. "Old man, how is it? Is there any news?" Lin Yi quickly picked up the phone when he heard the ringtone. "Lil, if I'm not wrong, Wang Xinyan's physique is similar to someone I've met before. Lin Dongfang said slowly. Chapter 30, 321. I don't know what it's called, and that person didn't know either, but she called it the sponge body. Lin Dongfang said, Sponge body? What does that mean? Lin Yi didn't understand. Is it a type of practitioner's body? You could say that it's called a sponge body, but it's just a metaphor. Old man Lin explained, the so-called sponge is very absorbent, but there are a number of holes on it, so the leakage is also very strong. In other words, the human body is like a sponge. It can absorb a large amount of spiritual energy, but it can also be like squeezing a sponge, squeezing out the water inside, which is the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It is reversible. You're saying that Wang Xingyan has this type of body? Lin Yi thought about it. It really was the case. There seemed to be some energy in Xingyan's body that could be absorbed by him, and Xingyan herself could absorb the qi from her jade pendant and store it in her body. That should be it. Lin Dongfang nodded. Back then, I had a friend's sister who had this type of body as well. Practitioners with this type of body would be able to level up very quickly if they had the right chance and enough qi. They'd be able to go from a normal person to sky, class, late phase, peak in a matter of months. Of course, the time would be different depending on the qi in the air. Then Xingyan. Lin Yi was shocked by the speed of a person with this kind of constitution, but he was more worried about Xingyan's body condition. Xingyan was already fainting. What was the point of training? Xingyan's body. It's the same as that person's, triggered by the orchid jade grass. Lin Dongfang said, It's because of the grass that I thought of this. Old man, it doesn't matter if I know or not. What I want to know is, what should Xingyan do now? Lin Yi asked. To be honest? Lin Dongfang smiled bitterly. I don't know either. You don't know either? Lin Yi was stunned and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then, where can I find your friend's sister? She has already left for now. You won't be able to find her. But Lin Dongfang said, What I can tell you is that this kind of physique, without the coordination of mental cultivation method and mnemonic chant, can also absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to wake up and recover on its own. Within a year, there won't be too much danger to his life. However, without the mantra, one cannot become a cultivator. That's not important. The most important thing is to stay alive. Lin Yi was relieved after listening. Don't you know that? You scared me to death. That's just what I heard. I don't know if it works or not. Lin Dongfang said helplessly, Moreover, do you think it's so easy to find a place with abundant spiritual energy? A place with abundant heaven and earth spiritual qi. Can't those ancient sects do? Lin Yi asked after thinking for a while. It was possible in the past, but I'm afraid it's not possible now. Lin Dongfang said, The spiritual energy is getting thinner and thinner. It's not enough for her to absorb anymore. Is that so? Lin Yi felt helpless. Old Lin was right. A place with abundant heaven and earth spiritual qi was hard to find. Lin Yi had a ready-made place, but only Lin Yi could enter that place. Wang Xingyan couldn't go in. The jade space could be used for storage, but it didn't work on living beings. He couldn't kill Wang Xingyan and put her in, could he? That person was dead. What was the use of putting her in? But don't be disappointed. That person may have left, but her sister, my friend, is still here. Go ask her, and you'll get the answers you want. Lin Dongfang sighed and said, I didn't plan to contact her for the rest of my life. But for you, it seems that some things must be faced. Old man, what are you talking about? Lin Yi was confused by Lin Dongfang's words. He didn't know what Lin Dongfang meant. Nothing. Old Lin shook his head. Go. When you see her, tell her that you're my descendant. I believe she won't make things difficult for you, and will answer your questions. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.